my crew are here.
I'm back, bitches! Okie dokie, gentlemen, are we all here ready to fucking go? I asked you all a question! As I reveal my giant monkey! That's not as funny as you thought it was, boy!
God, I thought he meant penis!
I swear, the only thing I hate more than weaklings... Hey! I'm speaking, soldier! Don't fucking speak unless you're smoking fucking dirt! What we're gonna do is we're gonna fly...
The talk show at the end of the week.
Space is big.
Star Citizen Base.
It's really big.
Round Table.
It's got to say a lot.
How many Twitch streamers do you see? Hi, on
I see
Twitter.
one. I see two. It's three. And we're live.
No. How many do you see on Twitter that are always like doubters of themselves? Because I see a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah. I'm too old to be a doubter of myself. I just go on and say, I'm the greatest in the world!
That's how you fucking do it.
That's right.
Exude confidence. People like confidence. They like to attack that which is weak. This is the human condition.
Oh my god, you have your dynamic microphone back.
Is it great?
Yeah, it's great.
It's fucking great. All right, anyways. Hi. Sorry, Rellim. I was in the middle of something.
Yeah, you were. Doesn't matter, we'll just throw everything live. Fuck it, we'll do it.
That's right. That's where we're going.
You can see him like
Oh, dear. I see you.
moving the line because
Because I feel like
desk.
new fire now.
All right.
Yeah, that's what you got to do when you're standing. You got to move your feet. You can't just stand like.
No.
I guess you could.
So-
Like those military guys that just stand there for hours at a time at attention.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, I couldn't.
They
imagine.
developed DVP right off the bat.
Oh, here comes the noisy one.
It's Jar
Really, I
Jar
thought we were
Binks.
just having a chair on the, and there's the chair.
So yeah, welcome to the roundtable. Let me do the proper introductions, if that's all at all even useful anymore. Welcome. We have a Star Citizen talk show right here every Sunday, usually, on the Base Radio. The Twitch is the chat is on Twitch. In case you're listening through Shoutcast, that is where we interact with. If you want to do that, that's where it'll be. And the question bot, I should go start that. Will also be running, which means that you can submit questions by the format that we usually have, and just prefix your questions with either one of those words you see that the bot posted in the chat, like question in square brackets. Just submit it, and it'll go on a list, and we will do. We usually do that at the end of the show. Today we have me, Jetta. Jar Jar Binks.
That's funny. I'm sorry. That's an inside joke. That's fucking funny.
I don't. He's muted.
Nobody got
himself
it
anyway.
but me.
And Uber Nerd.
Oh, me?
Yes,
yeah,
you.
he.
Hi.
How's it going?
Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks a lot.
A lot has changed since you've been here last.
Did he?
Yeah, quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
Did he change, or did
Well, I
He did
got
change
this
a little bit.
glorious beard.
you used to be a girl?
Yes.
Yes.
Or at least I used to be girlish in nature. With a deep voice and a beard, but, eh.
Not gonna touch it.
All right, so,
That's how you get in trouble.
yeah, that's right. All right, guys. The reverse beard hawk. That's right.
So what did change then?
His channel is pretty fucking successful now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was a little tiny
is?
bitty. He was a little tiny bitty startup when we launched his career, as with all the other streamers that are graced by being allowed to participate in the roundtable.
I don't
Oh, is
remember
that how we see
when
us?
was the time. When did I last appear on the show? I mean, I know I did once.
It was years ago.
Yeah.
It was a while. I
It
think
was-
it was
it was
before
in
we
20
even did video. It was audio only.
No. I was. It was video. I mean, I remember that.
We
I just
did a
don't
video
remember.
conference, but we used to just broadcast audio only
I don't know.
because it wasn't a podcast. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Was it
I don't know.
2015?
No, it was 20. I wasn't streaming. I didn't start streaming until it was after I started streaming. So I think it was like the summer. I think it was it was before I was partnered. I think it was the summer of 2017. I think maybe maybe June or July, something like that.
I check
You
in
have to
on you
remember
every now and then.
The years just blend
Yeah.
together when you get to a certain age. It's like,
No, it's from being a Star Citizen backer. It's still 2016 in my mind.
Yeah. Where's the
oh
squad?
yeah, you're
42?
waiting for Squad
Well,
of
20,
It's waiting for
2015 was
Squad 42
when
to
I
be
started
released.
backing.
Right.
That was when everything blew up. If you guys remember the Kotaku stuff in September of 2015, everything just went freaking nuts, and people
Was
were like,
that
"Oh
the-
my god!"
Greatest Christmas live stream. Wasn't it also
remember.
that year?
You
Yeah, I
blocked
think
that
so.
one out too, yeah.
Wasn't that the one where they showed the pupil to planet or something like that? It's where we had just gotten the social module, which is Area 18.
Which is now gone.
Back then. Well, back then planets weren't supposed to be a thing for another 10 years in this
Yeah.
game.
Well, that's when they surprised us with the pupil to planet thing in the Christmas live stream. They were like, "Oh, by the way, check this out." We were like, "Oh my god!"
Technology.
And it was so, yeah. Well, what they showed us back then was all one texture. Remember that? But we were all still so impressed.
pretty basic. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it was,
It was
you know,
impressive.
I thought it was
Because of the
impressive that-
scale.
Yeah, I thought it was impressive that guy he took the code home and figured it out over a weekend.
That's what LSD does for you.
Yeah,
Opens doors. Especially that German LSD. I heard that shit's crazy. Oh, you're not supposed
I
to
heard
do
they
drug
call
or
it
gun references on
bratwurst.
this thing. Yes, beer. Called beer. over there.
bratwurst and beer, man.
So, anyways, my point is your channel's been doing pretty freaking good lately.
Yeah,
I check in on you every once in a while, and you have a decent following of some crazy bastards.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
They're all they're starting to congregate. Oh, it's nice. It's the growth is. It's not like I went from 50 to 500. It's a very slow but very steady progression upwards, and there's not a lot of. It's just really slow but very nice and steady, and it just maintains as it keeps going up. So I like that.
That's good.
Nothing explosive in terms of, just huge number changes, which would be probably a little disconcerting. And it would be, it could be, the faster you rise, the faster you might fall too. So
That is the traditional thought process.
and it could, who knows? But it's
Works
fun.
like that with actors too. Most entertainers, if you watch them grow in their career, they're usually pretty strong, like a Keanu Reeves type character, where he played a lot of shitty roles, and now he's just a fucking god on screen.
Oh, I know, right?
Maybe one day you'll be Neo.
Yeah, maybe.
No, probably not. You're a little
No.
old for that, I think. You're not the
Yeah.
one.
Well, and I don't have that monotone down. I don't know what to do. It's just too much. You killed my dog.
John Wick's a great fucking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what a change from his early films to his later films, I mean, it's unlike, let's see here, Nicolas Cage, who went from being, like in every film and all, great, and all of a sudden, oh my God.
They only want to give him some
Train
goofy
wreck.
roles. Yeah. National Treasure series is good. I like that stuff. The hell was I gonna say? There's my senior moments are kicking in.
You can't really do
we could just-
who are you? What the fuck do you do?
No, because we already know who he is and what
You
he
see,
does.
it-
have trained Rellim. Now answer the goddamn
That's right.
question.
Yeah, who are
Who the
you
fuck are
and
you?
why the fuck
We
should
could
anybody
rephrase it.
care? Blah, okay.
Where the fuck you been? What's been happening?
Well, I'm on the interwebs every single day, and
Every day.
yeah, every day. Well, I mean, every once in a while I'll miss a day, but that's only usually due to high fever or something like that.
That's what I was gonna say.
Driving
You're
to Seattle.
this is your only gig now.
I like your mug.
And actually,
Well,
I think
yes, kind of.
yes and no.
Yes and no. I mean, so I got injured.
Do you grow
I got a
medicinal
shoulder injury.
marijuana?
What's that?
Do you grow medicinal marijuana too on the side?
No.
No.
No, I still work at the post office doing light duty. I got injured. I got a shoulder injury at the post office while delivering the mail last August, and have been kind of not working full time at all anywhere. You know, like so. This gig as a streamer has been supporting me and my kid, which is nice
That's cool.
because without it, you know, things would be a lot worse. So I'm thankful to all my my supporters out there.
You bang on the doors for sponsorships and all that shit like the rest of these people?
Well, actually, Fade to Karma actually approached me, wanted me to come into their stream team, and they dangled some sponsorships and stuff in front of me, and I was like, okay, I'll bite, and it helps a lot. I get to play some games sometimes for I get paid to play certain games, and I like, hey, I'm being sponsored to play this, and I don't mind being completely upfront and on it. You know, they don't want me to hide that, and I'm glad about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they're willing to, you know, and we get other kind of pay, and we have some other ways that, you know, people can go and test out games through this, what's called Quest Mode. You can download and play different, you know, mobile games or PC games and earn points doing that, which you can then use those points to then subscribe to me. So I think I have, I don't know. I mean, I've gotten over 50 subscriptions because of that. So
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
You know, I always wonder when you get this paid thing, right? So you like try out this game on stream. Do they also allow you to completely
Blow
on
the
it?
shit out of it if it sucks?
If it
Trash
sucks, yeah.
Oh yeah, I make that clear up front. I say, well, you know, I'm going to be honest about it. If I'm playing it, I'm going to try to play it, and if it, you know, if there are broken things in it, I'm going to talk about that. And so I do, and you know, that hasn't stopped them from, you know, coming back. But the numbers have been good, and the support that I get from the stream team has been just phenomenal. Right? They're partially behind, you know, pushing Twitch to help me out more and more. So.
Huh.
And me by myself, I could not get Twitch to even pay attention, but them behind me, they're like going, hey, we're a pretty big team. We got a lot of stuff coming in and a lot of big sponsors behind us. So Twitch is like, okay, here you
it
go.
doesn't hurt, right?
No, not at all. You know, so it's very nice.
Everybody hates corporations.
I like corporations.
They feed
I'm
my
full
family.
on, what's that?
They feed my family.
That's right.
I don't think I care either way.
No?
Oh, corporations are like people. You hate some, you like some, you love some, you know, you're indifferent to others.
I look at it this way. When I listen to somebody that's with clarity and insights into why they think that this corporation is shitty or doing something wrong, I can empathize, sympathize, all that stuff. Second the video's over, I'm done empathizing, sympathizing. I don't care. The company is just a company. Why should I care about a non-entity that has nothing to do with me?
Right.
I mean,
I only care about products.
Something like Google, for instance, everybody cares about because of the way they act, but again, don't really care. Go ahead.
Yeah. Nope. Get it. I totally get it. So, yeah, I mean, so for me, streaming every day has, especially just streaming Star Citizen is what I've been doing lately. Because I haven't.
How's that going for you?
Good. I like it.
Yeah?
I do a lot. So on my channel, we don't just focus on, okay, what kind of gameplay can we do right now to entertain the masses? Bread and circuses. No, we go down more of these think pieces where we're talking about, okay, so here's a game, here's a game mechanics that they're putting into the game. Where do they want to go with it? Where can they go with it? Where should they go with it? And then we have debates and discussions, and we get, sometimes it gets, somewhat contentious in chat. And I don't mind that as long as everybody is polite to each other. We can have big time disagreements about different, game mechanics. Where should it go this way? Should it go that way? Should it be easier? Should it be harder? That kind of stuff, Should it be more involved? Should it be less involved? So I love to have that kind of theory crafting talk. And I love to look at the new stuff that they bring in. And, we have arguments about stuff like the height of the atmosphere, the point at which you should be able to quantum out or quantum in, all that kind of stuff, So the overheating thing has been a big discussion on the channel, and it's a lot of fun to talk about. And we like to, I like to say there should be this level of, you need to, because of the fact that the quantum engine is supposed to be using some sort of exotic matter built into this fuel, but still having these, it should always be building up or, reducing the quantum bubble, and therefore the heat, you have to sit there and monitor it, not like every 5 seconds, but at least you should have to go in like every 5 minutes and, okay, reduce the power. Okay, now increase the power. Okay, and just to make sure that the bubble doesn't collapse. And you should be able to maintain, yourself in quantums, as you're going through quantum, you should be able to maintain that as long as you pay attention to the, those things. And I think that, a lot of people don't want that. They want to go set something once and then just kick back and not have to do anything.
Because that's the way all the other games function.
Isn't that what people always whine about, though, when it comes to... Because everyone's always like, oh, you push your button, you go quantum drive, you go AFK, grab some tea. Well, the idea was always for one to not have quantum, right, to be so unengaging as it was. For one,
well, and the thing is that we all see, those of us who are older or who have been paying attention or who read through all of the posts that the developers put up, we kind of know where they want to go with this. We know that Chris, he's no slouch. And Chris wants to have a level of engagement for the player, whether you are an FPS soldier out on the front line or whether you're the engineer back in the in engineering on the ship. They want that full engagement for each player. And some of the people who don't want to be engineers, don't want to have to deal with it. They want to be able to have some way to just gloss over all that engineering stuff and say, I shouldn't have to deal with that. Well, that's why you hire engineers. You don't have to deal with it if you have somebody in your ship who does want to deal with it. There are a lot of people out there who want that other level of gameplay. They want to be able to go in there and be the person that gets you from point A to point B faster than everybody else with as little hitches.
It comes down to what we always talk about on this show. This game caters to everybody, but it doesn't cater to one person.
That's right.
And it isn't going to be...
Well, that's what I was going to say, is I don't see a middle ground in a lot of these different mechanics of the game that are going to be like this huge mass appeal. Some shit's going to piss off crowd A, some shit's going to piss off crowd B. Some people are going to be really into this really complex stuff. Some people are going to be really against the complex stuff. And I don't see the way the game is being built as being able to accommodate all. I don't get it. I don't see that being a thing.
Well, a lot of people, we know this because they keep saying it to us in TS, on Discord, on Spectrum. They keep talking about all the ships they're going to take out alone. The multiplayer ships they're going to take out alone and manage alone and do alone and all of this stuff. But they still don't want to do anything while they're flying those ships. They want easy land. They basically want Eve in Star Citizen.
That's
Although
what
it's
I
a hard learning curve there. You can do everything alone.
Yeah.
Except for the mass battles. And they don't seem to understand that if a ship is designed to have 4 people on board, you need four bodies.
Right.
If it's designed for 100, you actually need 100 people to be combat effective, or effective at any job you do.
I've come up with this theory, working theory. I don't know now, that has not been confirmed by CIG, but I think it's probably something that they're kind of geared towards. And that when you see a big ship, let's just take the Idris, for example. There are going to be heads of departments, right? So there's going to be a chief engineer. There's going to be a chief navigation officer. There's going to be a chief, ordnance officer. There's going to be so the heads of all these departments. Now you can have a whole crap ton of NPCs on your ship, but what you need in order to give them the proper directions is you need a player to be at the head of each station. So let's just say that you have a minimum of, when it says the Idris has a minimum of 8 players, a maximum of 26. I think that is not for NPCs. That does not include NPCs. That just includes the actual players, right? So if you say the minimum of 8, that's 8 stations that need to be headed up. So, and I have come up with this theory that the Idris, you won't be able to go sit in the pilot seat and push some button and start the engines. You'll have to basically go call engineering and say, all right, because they have to then control all the cooling and down there and basically deal with the engines themselves as they're starting them up. So the startup process for an Idris is going to be much different than it is for a single seat fighter. Single seat fighter, of course, the pilot starts the engines, but the Idris, the pilot tells the engineer to start the engines, and then you've got a navigation officer, you've got the pilot, you've got the ordnance officer. Maybe the ordnance officer is the guy who is calling the shots, and then if your turrets are occupied by players or occupied by NPCs, when the ordnance officer, maybe the firing control officer selects a target out there, everybody knows which target to fire at, and it's like selected for them.
I hope it's that complex, especially on those larger ships.
And I hope that it basically says you cannot pilot an Idris by yourself. You need at least that minimum number of players to make it work.
No,
if you had 2 players,
you have to then differentiate, right? You technically can take an Idris out with only NPCs, but you have to have NPCs to get the ships to work. Will it be combat effective though? That's another matter.
See, the thing is that I think that if you had only NPCs, you still couldn't get you have to be at those particular stages. This is my theory. Now, they haven't said this, but my theory is you have to be at those particular stations in order to command the NPCs to do what you want them to do.
Goes against what they've said already. You will technically be able to take your Idris out alone with NPCs only, but if you meet a crew of humans, you're toast.
I know that's what goes against what they've said, but what I'm saying is that they have changed a whole bunch since that point. When was that they were talking about that? 2016? I think that was when they had mentioned that. And the thing is that since then, a lot has changed, especially in the way that they are building these systems and the complexity of the systems that they're trying to build for like engineering, for, fire control, for ordnance, for security on the ship and so on and so forth. And so what I think is that they could go this way. The people who are complaining about not wanting to, I've got a javelin and I don't have any friends. And I just like, really? How many people own a javelin but have nobody in their organization that would want to, man that javelin? Probably not very.
Probably a lot of people. Internet nerds with a bunch of money.
Yeah, but I bet they're a part of big organizations,
No, they're not. They're not. They're actually thinking they're going to be out there flying them on their own.
I certainly hope that's not going to be allowed.
Unfortunately, one of the big predecessors to Star Citizen was Eve, and I know. And I think it was Tsunami that said something about Eve in there, where the hell it was.
Yeah, he said
Eve, I hated one person could fly a Titan. And I think that there are a lot of people that have migrated to the idea of Star Citizen and are desperately clinging on to that mindset, sitting in Jira and manipulating the market and all this other bullshit that I hear constantly from ex-Eve players. I don't think that they're right, but I think that is the mindset that's out there.
Oh, I know that's the mindset that's out there. Or should I say that's the mindset that's out there of some of the most vocal people, right?
Sure.
I don't know that that's the majority, but I do know that's the majority of the most vocal, right?
Well, that's part of the problem with this whole project, right? At this point, is that there's probably like 20% of everybody that's backed the game that's actually truly active. And of those 20%, there's probably another 20% that are just insane. They're literally insane. They're on Spectrum. Yeah, but I don't see you going on Spectrum and starting all kinds of shit.
I do. Yeah. No, I go in there and poke the, hit the,
poke the bear.
Bee's nest. Yeah, constantly. I love doing that stuff. I've written some posts and said, this is the way it's going to be, like very, very sure of myself in spite of never knowing whether it's going to be that way.
And just watch the shitstorm.
Oh my God. I love that stuff. But I mean, I also mean it. I love it because I'm very much like, I'm going to take a position. I'm going to hold my ground. It's just like a family dinner, right? So everybody takes sides and then holds their grounds and gets really into it. You have a big
until
arguments.
It's time to pass the potatoes.
That's right. Pass me the potatoes. All right, you jerk.
No, but that's the problem. People don't apply common sense, a little bit of research and knowledge, and then use your fucking knowledge from something that you learned before to make a projection. Don't sit there and say, I won, therefore it will be. You have to look at what's realistic, what have they said, what is common practice, and what does a game have to look like for it to be playable and people buying it and keep playing it.
Right.
So most people are casuals. I'm casual.
Yep.
Although I spend a lot of time enjoying it and all that stuff, I'm still a casual player. So
do we remember what Chris Roberts said about that casual 15-minute play session? Yeah. So what he said specifically was that there will be, like, if you got to look at the 15-minute play session as in something that is on a planet or from planet to station, that would be a 15-minute play session. It would not be your trip going from Stanton to Earth. That's not a 15-minute play session. It might not even be a taking a mission where you start your mission over at the Hurston area and you end up over in the Crusader area. Not a 15-minute mission. The 15-minute mission is around that general area of planet and moons. And as it fleshes out, as they add more areas, they've talked about how once the Stanton system is complete, they will start fleshing out each individual planet with lots of these mission zones just on the planet alone. Those are the short casual play session missions that will exist. There are going to be, and so the thing that I argue against is allowing for the casuals to then usurp the long missions that will be available to the people who really want them. There should be no instantaneous transport from Stanton to Earth for somebody. I don't have time for that.
Absolutely.
Just let me but there also should be missions that allow for that person who only has 30 minutes to play in an evening to do. But you don't get to say this.
That's now you're conflating casuals with something else.
No. I mean, I'm saying not just the people who want like this simplicity, but also the people who want who don't have time. It's not a casual player is somebody who
will be. So there will be time, small mission areas. You can be in a city, go pick up your ship, fly out, pick up a crate, come back, fly out, defend an enemy base, pick up a criminal, relatively short. And there will be plenty of those kind of missions locally on a planet, on a moon, close to a station in space that you can do. That's suited for those who have less time, You might have a lot of time, but you come home from work, your girlfriend is pissed. You don't want to spend too much time in front of the PC, but you will get something done. So it will cater to them as well. You just have to know where to be able to do that. You can't be in the middle of nowhere where nothing's happened and you have to go for 2 hours, travel for 2 hours to get somewhere. You know, you learn that as you go along. If I want quick action, I need to be where quick action is.
Yeah, but I think that's what he's saying.
So I think one of the things that everybody complains about the length of time that it takes to travel, like in this system, which if you look through the entire star map, this is one of the smaller systems. It's not the smallest, but it is definitely close. It's like maybe second or third smallest in the entire, so they want these travel times shortened even more. I'm like, no, if
the problem isn't the travel time is long. The problem is the amount of content that you can encounter at this current stage of development when you get to where you're going.
Right.
That's
the thing that I liked
issue.
about, so I tested this out yesterday, and it actually turned out that I think that the Hurston, what they've done with the Hurston area, I don't know if you guys have quantumed between the planets or the moons of Hurston, and going to Hurston and then back to the moon, and then I got interdicted a bunch of times, and it was awesome. It was a lot of there was like it was active. There was a lot of action, and I could have done it in a short period of time. It could have been playing for just an hour and had like 3 or 4 encounters and some combat and done a couple missions, and it was great. And I didn't have to travel to ArcCorp, and I didn't have to travel to Crusader. And the thing about it is that if they can do that for every area where you're getting, you're having lots of activity, and if you need to quantum to those areas, sure, it's going to take a long time. I don't mind the idea that a small ship like a Mustang, the base model or the Aurora takes 14 minutes to quantum. It should. And you can't, it should take that long. If you want to, change the quantum engine and then maybe like do some, can you overclock those? I don't think you can. I know that you can they've changed which ones you can overclock, but it's all about get to the area, and then hopefully there's enough missions to keep you occupied in that area for a while. And that's kind of where I think that's gotta go. It's like where if you want to go to these other areas, that's for the people who want long distance trucking. That's their.
Well, let's address this comment from Effet. Says, I complain about travel time due to thinking about how many systems they will have, not how small the playscape is right now. And I think the concern is obviously if it takes you 14 minutes to get from Crusader to ArcCorp, then what is the travel time to the jump point, through the jump point, exit the jump point, and get to your destination? An hour? 2 hours? It's going to vary, obviously, right? But what is an acceptable amount of time to
Shouldn't that be
They said 17 to 18 minutes, 16 to 18 minutes was what they said on average from you land in a system until you get to the next wormhole. It depends, of course, where you land, where the wormhole is. Some wormhole will be farther away, some will be closer. So when you're traveling a distance, but we did a small calculation based on what they said, the size and the current roadmap of where the systems are and the major trading lanes. So if you have a certain size ship, you want to, you don't take a Aurora and full of cargo and go from one system to the other. You take a fleet of Hull E's and their escorts and go from one side to the other. And if you don't stop for fuel, you don't stop for repairs, nobody attacks you, either humans or NPCs, and nothing happens on the way, 18 hours. And that is an average time of 16 minutes from landing to jump point.
Now, what I see happening here, right, is we're in this confined space right now, right? And they'll tweak the times a little bit. I think they've been fucking with that a little bit, adding the overheat to quantum, which I don't necessarily agree with or disagree with. I don't like the idea behind the quantum overheating, but they could come up with some other lore bullshit for that. But that aside, once there's another system and you actually have to make it and a game developer actually has to make that travel, Chris sits down and does that and realizes how much fucking time that is, they're going to change it. They might make it longer.
I hope so. I mean, the thing about the way that I look at travel time, is that there are going to be a subset of players who want to be that interstellar space trucker, and they're looking for those long times. Plus, the explorers. That look, when they took that poll, what was the percentage of players who wanted to be explorers?
Well over 50%, 60.
I thought it was like 68%.
Yeah, it was pretty high.
It was huge. So if that amount of people, if you can explore an entire system, in a couple days, a single person, well then, and we know that that's not going to be the case. The system we're in is already pretty dang large, and we hope that, because basically what that means is that the people who don't have a life, who don't have jobs that they have to go to, are going to discover everything, and the person who is the working stiff is going to get stiffed, if you know what I mean.
Because that's usually the way that games work.
But the beauty of Star Citizen is that's not the way that this has to work. If they make it big enough, you may come in and you may go, hey, you know what? You can see the maps that have been put into the ICC, the Tessa Bannister, our cartography union or whatever. And you can go and look and see, all right, so there's these huge swaths of space over there that haven't been explored. I'm going to go there this Saturday, right? And boom, you discover something. That's what I think Chris is hoping to be able to give to millions of people. But in order to do that, these systems have to be freaking ginormous. You know what I mean? They have to be big.
Is pretty goddamn big, dude.
Right? And yet it's only 5
and
AU.
it's small. Right.
It's only 5 AU. So what I'm really hoping for, and I think that Chris, we've noticed how Chris, you remember when somebody was talking, they were all complaining about some game mechanic, and Chris's response was get good. I loved that. I loved that because he didn't back down. He just told him to get good. He's like, hey, get good. You know what? It's like, come on. You don't want to try? This game is for people who want to.
Oh, come on, Uber. You know that the world is all about instant gratification, man. And that's what everybody's looking for. Not everybody. Okay, that's too big of a generalization. But there is a huge swath of people alive today on this planet that think everything should be instantaneous. And because I want it, it needs to be now.
Yeah, there are a lot of those people. I think that you'll find a lot of people that want to be, you may want to travel, but I don't. Right. So don't make me have to do what you want. No. This is about having a mostly realistic, not totally. Come on. I mean, there are some things that are going to be not real. Like for example, they want AI. The AI. We're not talking AI as in the NPCs. They want computers to do everything for them. If I want to push a button and travel from here to there, it's 900 years in the future. Come on. It's like, what? So you want computers to do all that stuff? You want computers to balance all that stuff? You want, I think the way I explained it with the quantum drive, and I like the idea of overheating that's also connected to the quantum envelope. Let's just call it an envelope, maybe a bubble, a warp bubble or envelope, but it grows if you put the power up beyond a certain amount and make it be random for every engine, meaning that because the exotic, it's like a Heisenberg uncertainty principle. You can't really see it, and if you look at it, you're not going to be able to. And it's like Schrodinger's cat and Heisenberg uncertainty principle all in one, so that if you look at it, it's always different, right? That way, it really will take your time to go look and say, okay, my engine, even though I have a crossfield, he has a crossfield. My point of going over this limit is different than his. So you have to learn the engine. It's like, God, what was it? In Firefly. The engineer girl, I can't remember what her name was, but anyway, so she was always saying that there was some certain areas that you had to go through and tweak this and tweak that just to get it to work right, and it was never the same for any other engine, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that would be something that would engage people who want to be engineers, and that even if you're flying a single seat fighter while you're in quantum, you really do need to pay attention to that. And I'd love to have some sort of like indicator of the size of that envelope or that bubble that grows, and you see, okay,
sure, and it kind of work like mining does.
You adjust it down. Kaylee, was that her name in the? Yeah, okay, Kaylee.
Yes.
Anyways, so you see the bubble getting, and you're like, okay, I know that if it goes any bigger than it is right now, it's going to burst, and I'm going to drop out of quantum. So you adjust the power levels down a little bit, and you can see the heat correlating with that as well. I'd love to have that level of complexity.
Sort of like the way they do with the mining laser and keeping it in a certain.
Yes, exactly. The same kind of complexity, right?
But that's so. What we're talking about is you can't do that on the fly while you're doing combat. You can't do that on the fly.
You're not doing
Most
combat in quantum.
Quantum, sure.
So, but still, it's. Let's say that it's like combat. It's easy to start. It's easy to get a foot in the door, but it's hard to master, right? So, we're talking about a system. I think, in my opinion, and based on what they've said, where you're gonna have edge cases where you have to use your throttle constantly. I'm looking apart from quantum because I haven't seen any examples of that mechanic, but it will be probably something similar to what I'm describing now, where you can really overclock your engine, you can really push them into red all the time, and you can use your throttle to be on constant point where you either burn out your engine or you don't burn out your engine, right? So it's you and your skill that is always pushing the point. That is the skill point, skill ceiling. You know, it's higher than putting the dial a little bit back, using a little bit less heat, but you don't get as much output. You see what I mean? So the person that wants to, quantum travel in this case, as we talked about now, a little bit slower, can, without the constant issue of heat, repetition, while the person that really want to take
well,
it...
that's probably a good compromise. I see where you're going with this. That might be a good compromise. Okay, you could tune your quantum down, and it actually slows you down, but you won't have to deal with all the bullshit of overheats. But maybe if you're slower, you get interdicted more because you're an easier target.
Yeah.
Or
so I see that too.
Spend more time. You pay with time. Time is currency, remember?
I see that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on board with that. So basically, like right now, what you need to do if you do not want to constantly be pulled, basically stop because of overheating, once you start the quantum jump, you just lower the power so that the heat doesn't keep increasing. But that should, at the same time, also see what I was talking about. If you lower the power like that, I was saying that the bubble starts to shrink.
And it might collapse. And
it will collapse if you don't pay attention to it.
Sure.
But you shouldn't. So I was saying that if you don't lower the power, then you'll just keep jumping. You'll overheat, you'll stop. You have to wait for it to cool, then jump again and stop. You have to wait for it to cool. But you don't have to deal with all that minute details. However, if you don't want to stop, you want to still go as fast. Once you get into quantum, you have this indicator that shows the bubble starting to shrink once you lower the power. Then when it gets to a certain size, you're like, okay, I got to lift it back up. But when you put the power back up to another level, then the heat starts going back up. So you're having to watch the bubble and you're having to watch that heat. So you know where you're in this envelope and you don't stop. You're going fast. Now, the person who doesn't want to deal with that shouldn't have to.
That's kind of, we don't have to go to extreme on the low end. We're already punishing them by taking a longer time, right? So you don't have to punishing them by saying, oh, it will collapse and you have to stop. That's just as bad as being on the edge and going faster. You don't want to give the casual more work. You would want to give them less work so they enjoy it more and pay more money so that you can tweak your engine to the max and go faster.
Well, that's kind of the danger, isn't it? Is that if you create too much complexity for the newer player, you're missing out on microtransactions, possible subscriptions, chip sales. You're missing out on all this revenue, which is, everybody is well aware I got a lot of money into it. It's not a fucking problem, right? I can afford to play the game, but some people fucking are really fickle about where they put their money, and the company needs money. CIG is gonna, or CI or whatever the fuck they are now, is gonna need a lot of revenue over a long period of time if they're gonna finish this project.
What, did they change their name to Cloud Imperium only?
Yeah.
Well, there was a big debate about it. They've always been Cloud Imperium is apparently the parent company, and then Cloud Imperium Games is one thing, and there might be Cloud Imperium movies once fucking all this technology gets built, and we'll have Squadron 43 as like the Star Wars anime thingy that they did. But anyways, that's kind of what my concern is when you start talking about having the initial level of gameplay be so complex that people are just like, all right, I don't fucking get it, I'm out, and I'm taking my potential $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 with me, and I'm going to go buy loot boxes from EA.
Well, that's
It's a
what we're
concern.
talking
It's a legitimate concern, because they need the money.
You have to cater to both. You have to cater to Uber nerd that wants to fickle with his knobs, right? It needs to be there. But it has to be there. It has to be there. But for that to be there, you also have to have players to play with. And not everybody, most people don't want to spend, they have their own thing they want to do, and everything else they don't want to spend time on. So you need that easy to master to be there, and it be non-fickly. I'm fine with, you have to repair your ship now and then. You can't get interdicted by enemies, right? It's stuff like this. And you should be, if you're active with your radar, you're predicting, you're changing courses, and you're going fast, and you're keeping up the bubble to max so it can burst through, I don't know, interdiction fields and stuff like that. You should get rewarded for working hard. You see
So
what I mean?
here's,
But don't take away from the casual players.
so
Casual
here's what
doesn't
I'm
mean bad.
saying, that for the casual player, the one who doesn't want to deal with all of that stuff, maybe you would allow, because I still want because of
Time.
time, sure. I think time is a good one to go there, but I still think that there should be, like, maybe you can better macro the, like, say, all right, you got to turn off all of your energy weapons. If you don't have energy weapons, maybe they go, oh, okay, so it's not going to overheat if I have ballistics, but it is going to overheat if I have my energy weapons on all the time. So, the benefit is that you have to basically, if you want your energy weapons, which don't need to be rearmed, right? So you don't run out of ammo. If you want those on your ship and you also want a quantum, you have to have, maybe they allow you to just go turn off the weapons with one button. Okay, we've turned off all the weapons. Now you can do the jump without overheating because your heat generation for your ship is much lower. And then, but the thing is that if you don't want to constantly, like, maybe you don't have to, you don't get pulled out of quantum if you're going between moons. You don't get pulled out of quantum for the short jumps. And you won't get pulled out of quantum if you know how to manipulate this stuff. And most of the people, especially the people who are not playing long sessions, will find them, if they make enough missions all around a single planet with moons and stuff like that, stuff that's engaging, stuff that really, you go out and do these missions on the planet. You may not ever leave that planet for weeks at a time. And then just know that, okay, if I go out and do this, by the time they get ready to do that, there will be this information. Okay, for this kind of setup with energy weapons, all you have to do is go into your MFD, turn off your weapons, then you will be able to do turn down the power on your quantum drive. If you have your quantum drive at half power with your weapons off, you'll be able to go at this speed. It'll take this amount of time. Now, if you want all that stuff on, it'll take, and you continually adjust the power, you'll be able to do it in this amount of time, shorter. Conversely, if you turn off all your energy consuming devices.
You like your knobs way too much.
Well, but the thing is that you only have to do like one or two. I mean, I don't want it to be where I could just go in, push a button, go drink coffee, and my character does all this. No,
but you can still get interdicted. You can still have a ship breakdown that is a random occurrence if you haven't maintained your ship. So there's multiple layers already punishing you for being lazy. You cannot just put everything that should punish a player for not being there into one basket. You have to look at everything. So you have the ship is decaying, so you have to maintain it. You should have intelligence about which route to take to get there safely.
So
If you don't-
now you know that
if you don't do that homework, you're gonna get interdicted a lot, especially if you go straight from A to B instead of going that way, that way, that way, and that way. It's a
so
way,
you know that remember the all of the modules we get they showed these pictures of the modules that they have with these doors that you open up and they have like 3 or 5 different fuses that you
Subcomponents, sure.
yeah the subcomponents. So they've talked about the subcomponents are probably not all going to wear down at the same rate. So it'll be, you might even have to look through your engineering panels and go, oh, crap, which oh crap, that one's only at 10%. You might, now that's a lot of detail as well that the casual might not want to pay attention to, but then, if you don't pay attention to it, your quantum drive blows up or,
you
like
can
just dies.
pay to get it done. When
Sure.
you can go to a service station and pay a service fee that really drains his pocket to get it done.
I like that
And the
idea too.
Bigger the ship, bigger the cost. You don't want to do that when you're on the fly. You don't want to do the spare part thing. Fine, you just make sure your ship is always pristine. You
Yep.
pay for it.
Well, I want to change the semantics of the conversation away from penalizing the casual to rewarding the hardcore, because I think that that's kind of the direction that Uber is taking, that is saying
That's what I want.
I should be able to do it better, faster, stronger by being involved.
Yes.
And
yes.
Joe,
exactly.
whose wife is yelling at him and the kids playing Fortnite screaming in the background and shit, the house is on fire, all this crap, shouldn't necessarily be penalized. The more, I don't even know, in tune is not a good word, but the person that's willing to understand all these things and manipulate all of these things should end up being benefited by that activity and information.
Right. And I mean, I agree with that. I don't think that there should be before with the overheating, there was really almost nothing you could do about it. But I would like to see that all you have to do is go in and turn down, like if you have ballistics, you know this at the start. If you have ballistics, you don't have to worry about turning off the power to those because they're very low power, right? And then all you have to do is to not have any stops during your, point to point. I would love it if you had some sort of gauge, like you have your map up and you say, okay, what power level? You just start to tune it down and it says, okay, if you have your power at this level, you go this speed, but you'll stop here. Okay, turn it down, turn it down, turn it down. Oh, okay, here's one. I know, and it'll get longer and longer and longer, and then you go, oh, right there. So you do the quantum. You won't, unless you get interdicted or something,
Right,
an asteroid comes in your path, you'll miss
artificially
the whole trip,
stopped.
right?
Sure.
So if you have a map with a little yellow line on it that gets longer or shorter depending on the power on your the power you apply to the quantum drive, then I can make it all in one trip. Now, if you start off at the high power and you know that it'll take 3 jumps to make it at the high power at the fastest speed, but if you go in there while you're in quantum, you can adjust those. If you're paying attention, you can adjust those, maintain that high speed and not have to stop. However, you can lower it down to where you'll never stop, but you will go slower.
I think that they should do that and allow players to not be artificially removed from quantum drive.
Yeah.
So that they get out of their chair, they go make tea, they're making some ramen, they get interdicted and they come back and
so you just have a map.
Empty space and they're dead.
You just have a map, right? And you select your destination and then it says, okay, choose your power levels and it'll show you how many stops you have to make or no stops at all, right? So you lower it. Okay, that's one trip. It'll take this amount of time, right? Now, for the player who doesn't want to go that slow, then he goes all the way to the top and he knows that he has to babysit his quantum drive, but he can do it in a much faster period of time as long as he's paying attention.
Sure. That right there would encourage people to be involved with quantum drive.
Right. So
if it's going to save you 50% travel time, but
again, for like you said, the person who has other things to do in their house, they're like, I don't mind that. Now, there is always that possibility of being interdicted, right? There's always that possibility. What I would also like is if in the future, as they start to build into the systems, there can be like, all right, so I can actually I can actually go, oh, well, if I go this, like they have spline jumps around planets. What if they could allow slight spline jumps that might take you longer, but you would basically, like, oh, I'm only at a 5% chance of interdiction if I take this circuitous route there. But if I take a nice straight route, I'm at a 40% chance of interdiction, right? Because there's been trouble in this area, right? So maybe if you could bend it and, the manipulator, anyways, it would be kind of cool if you could kind of bend it a little bit and it would do a kind of a slight curve and reduce that. So it may take you longer, but your chance of getting interdicted is going to be darn close to zero, or maybe in some cases zero. And that way, the person who does want to go make dinner and coffee and stuff like that can say, hey, when I'm done with my dinner and I come back, I should be at the planet that I was going to.
Or that you have a start-stop function where take me to function A, because it's not from system to system, but I want to go there.
Nav
and then go
points.
there. Yeah. Now, basically, now you start with your initial point and you get a time, and then you've adjusted for everything you just said. And then you start adding in small nav points. I want to go here, then I want to go here, then a little bit up, and then a little bit down. It's going to take me X amount of time longer because I see those nav points.
Right.
And now comes to ticker. I still have to be there if I want the engine to happen as fast as possible.
Right.
So I don't want to be interdicted. I want it to be. I'm taking longer because I'm doing evasive maneuvers.
Right.
So I want it to go as fast as possible. So I will have to watch my engines.
Yep.
Now, let's say that you still are getting interdicted, but you can see the bubble before it happens. You can push something there. If you're there, you have a few seconds. 10 seconds, 5 seconds. I don't really care if it's a minute. I don't really care. Where you can push your own engine into red, if you know what I mean, for a brief period of time, and you have a greater chance than normal to break through.
Well, I tested something the other day where my ship started shaking. I knew I was being interdicted, so I turned off the engine and I stopped way before the interdiction point.
I did that at 1.2. So yeah.
So then I just went.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about it because you're way far away from where the interdiction device is, and then you can just quantum again. Mm-hmm. So the escort, Memphis was talking about the escort issue, and I was saying it would be nice if there was some sort of convoy mechanic where those maybe who don't want to control maybe you could have a bigger ship that would be like a convoy that would be for forming convoys around the ship, and then that person there would then control the stuff. Everybody else could go do what they need to do while in convoy, right? So if there was a convoy mechanic, that might help with people. Hey, we're starting a convoy. We're going from Crusader to Hurston. Who wants on board? And then, then they wouldn't have to worry about that.
It would have to work in a certain way where, given that your ship isn't broken already, that you haven't worn out your engine already, that your ship is not malfunctioning on the way. Given those parameters,
that's on you, not on the person who starts the convoy,
exactly.
Right? So if you're not paying attention to your ship's components, then you will basically, you'll come back and be like, why am I in the middle of space? Then you'll look and see, 4 components just died in the middle of quantum.
And your friends are going to be very fucking disappointed in you.
I know.
Broke my ship.
Not staying up on that.
So, for all the conversations we have about this, I'm pretty sure. Now, my confidence that they're already having these discussions at CRG is
probably
high. They have very smart people there doing this thing. And they're constantly blowing our minds.
Yeah.
And you know how hard that is to do these days? It's very hard to blow our minds.
I was pretty impressed with what the reverse the verse on Friday with those guys talking about the cityscape and how they're working with the procedural tools and what are their plans for the future of missions in buildings and how they are kind of planning for that. And they even talked about how, some places you might have, go to a landing pad, the elevator would open and take you down to the maintenance tunnels. I mean, how much could you, and they were talking about how the generation of these current missions and the mines, right, give them the ability to generate all kinds of stuff underneath the cities.
Mhm.
And have these, be dynamically generated without them having to go as long as they can make sure that every single time they don't just get a circular tunnel that just kind of goes back into itself, and they have actual places that, have, that make logical sense, then they could generate literally thousands of missions, and each one would be technically different, right? And each one could be in a different location, right? You could even go to the same building. One mission is go and raid a safe in this office on the 50th floor. Another one could be same building, but the mission would be down in the maintenance tunnels, that kind of stuff could be if they could get that stuff working, it would mean that they wouldn't have to have that stuff permanently there, but it would be generated for the mission. And of course, because it is a procedural seed generated, the maintenance tunnels would always be the same. Even if you went there 6 months later, the maintenance tunnels would be the same, but they wouldn't have to stay there if nobody got that mission again, right? So the thing about is,
so said they already talked about that. So once when something is created, it's already there. But they still want control over the lighting. They still want, so there's certain things that they find easier, right? To automatically create through their own tools. But they still haven't come to a place where they trust that engine to do lighting properly, to not have glitches, to not have, to be aesthetically pleasing everywhere. So they still have a manual oversight. So what they probably going to do is have the virtual places being already laid out. You're going to get X amount of approved seeds if you want to. And then those seeds can then be blended in X amount of ways and not fuck up. And then those can be said to be part of the city. So you might be able to go into an elevator and then travel in that elevator, and the hallways is in an apartment building or in an office complex, and they're always the same. They always they're never there in a computer world. They're just there when somebody's there, right?
Right.
Yeah. So when you get there, it's already lighted. It's perfect. It's done right. In the second you open the door, you open that seat.
Well, what I'm talking about in terms of the procedural generation of these, they could have these dynamic layouts, but each part of the hallway is pre-lit. Do you know what I'm saying? And they could have dark, non-working lights, perfect, well-lit, like they could have like 3 different stages: dim, bright, or dark, right? And that single hallway piece would connect to other hallway pieces, intersections, that kind of stuff. And the procedural generation would then, because they would already know the lighting, and they would say, okay, the lighting for this is medium light, or the lighting for this is mostly dark with blinking lights or something like that. So they could choose in the beginning, okay, when it generates, it's bad lighting, or when it generates, it's good lighting, or whatever, right? That they've already chosen those states, and then the computer would generate the layout, but with already pre-approved sections, right?
Sure. Well, that's the way it works
kind
now.
of how I see that they were talking about. That's what they were talking about. That is what they're trying to get to right now. Yes, they have to make everything bespoke because of all the way that they're doing that. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that it can do this and build these places that maybe even they haven't been to before, in a similar way that they build the landscapes, right? They don't go and inspect every landscape.
Yeah, so that it means just that there will be, instead of it being completely randomly generated, it's
artist-driven procedural generation.
So they still have to go in and pre-arrange it, pre-approve it, that these combination always works as far as we've tested it, right? It always produce something that we can aesthetically.
Yeah, but they already have that.
By.
That's how they're developing truck stops.
No, they don't. They don't.
Yeah, the truck stops interiors. So, those are all random.
No.
Yeah, but they still not. They're not completely random. They have rules
driven.
Yeah, that's the fundamental problem. We've been over this a fucking billion times. The idea of procedural generation in the most common mindset is that it's randomized. but that's not how they're using that technology. It's actually not true procedural generation. They just have a tool that says, I operate within this rule set, and anything outside of this rule set is bad.
Yeah. I mean, if you see some of the truck stops, there's like, we saw one yesterday, stairway goes up to just a ledge with nothing, right? It's like, so sometimes it doesn't create exactly what they're looking for it to create. And it is random within, like you said, it is random within a set of rules that they set. And that's why they have just the small truck stops. They're testing it out. They're seeing what it does. They've changed the seeds. If you notice between some patches, the truck stops kind of change their interiors a little bit. So then they're going to be bringing in the medium and the large truck stops, as well as the cargo depots. But all of those interiors are going to be they're not going to build all of those interiors. We saw the tool that they have. It just randomly builds out the interior according to a set of rules, and then they go in and they have to see, okay, did it make circular hallways that don't connect to anything? Okay,
sure, but
no.
this is all R&D work that we're witnessing. This isn't the freaking finished product, and that's part of the problem.
Product will be doing stuff that is basically hopefully fire and forget. That's what they hope, because there's no way that they'll be able to build a fulfilling game and have to do it, like have a person go in.
No,
and
you need 10,000 people
location.
doing it.
Yeah, that would it would be untenable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that what they're trying to, this is why they're doing it small. They're repeating it and seeing if it every time they repeat it or they change the number slightly, does it break anything? If it doesn't, and they just go, okay, random generation, boom, they're generated. Now let's have the players go in there and see how it works. Oh, it seems to be fine, or oh, these things are all broken, right? And it's again and again. And some people think, well, why don't we have the medium truck stops yet? I mean, we got the small ones, but it's because they're still tweaking all of that. But I think if you've noticed any of the new mission locations on Lyria and I think it's just Lyria, the ones that I've gone down into the depths of those locations so far, but those ones are using the same kind of tool sets that they have for the mission areas on Hurston, the mines, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they are randomly, I mean, they're not like, no artist is going in there and piling boxes and crates and all that stuff. They're allowing the computer to do that and then letting us report, is it working? Is it not working? It's not each one of those areas set up by a person. It's like, okay, does it work when we generate this?
But that's different. Building versus tunnel. Their philosophy, a building is built for a purpose. A tunnel is something nature created. And for us, we can say that, okay, you come in there, they explain it. You come in there, you might even be able to see there's an opening. You come there and there's nothing more.
Oh, I wasn't talking about the caves. I was talking about the mines that we have right now that are all, human-made structures inside, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can see different parts. This is the part that was down below, but now it's up here. It's like all those pieces, it's like they have little set pieces that fit together like a puzzle, and they can all go to different areas and rearrange it so it feels different, but it's all the same pieces. And if they can do that with colors and textures, I think that they can really make a lot of the same stuff that they have.
But that's what we talked about earlier. It is an ongoing process. Whether they will get it done by the time the game comes out, we don't know. But it's still very hard to do furniture. And, one thing is to create the room. Another thing is to place in something that makes it look used, livable.
The habs on
work
all
area.
of the where you spawn, the easy hab things, the new ones, that's all code driven. There isn't a guy in there saying, okay, the coffee cup needs to be here. There's just a set of rules that say in this location there can be one of 23 options, and then the code tries to do its best to frickin' make that happen. Two things quick from the chat. Zephyro Gaming says that the dev said that ArtCorp at its simple basic state before they add more features, and that's absolutely true. But they've also differentiated between hero assets and just random assets, because
Right.
they're not all going to be able to be Area 18. It's
Right.
fundamentally not possible for them to handcraft what Uber was just saying, the entirety of this universe. It's not possible. So some things are going to be really crazy, like they made the waterfall out of fucking neon lights and shit in Area 18. You're not going to see that everywhere. You'll see it in Terra, you'll see it on Earth. There'll be more than a handful of locations that are custom created like that. But for the most part, it's just going to be as much random procedurally generated content as they can possibly get out. Otherwise, forget it. The MMO's dead.
The tools that they are creating, they're trying to make it so that it's very hard to see the stuff that's not handcrafted. You will, if you look hard enough, be able to tell, oh yeah, this seems to be more procedural than art driven. But they want to. This is why it's taking so long to build these tools, and I think it's worth it to be perfectly honest. Now, I think one of the other things that we're forgetting about when we talk about these things and we look at this is that we're right now, all of our clients are running Star Citizen with DirectX 11, which is a very old API.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it can only do up to about 5,000 draw calls. They have talked about draw calls a lot in a lot of different of these ATVs and RTVs,
especially recently. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is the reason why that is because you don't understand. If you look at the complexity of what we see, and we know that it's limited to about 5,000 draw calls at most, then you're like going, oh, okay. And because think about Vulcan. Vulcan can get up using the same level of resources. They can get up to about 50,000 draw calls using the same level of resources. I mean, what I mean by resources is computer resources, your
Sure.
RAM, your GPU, your CPU, that, right? So 50,000 versus 5,000 max, right? 50,000 max. It's not 50,000 average. It's 50,000 max or so. I mean, but most of the draw, they're not going to go, okay, everything's up to 50,000 draw calls now. That's not going to be that way. But there will be for certain areas where they can max that out and give you a much more immersive visual kind of experience. And the same goes for when flying over ArcCorp. The textures and the draw calls that you get will be maybe 15 to 20,000 rather than 5,000 or
whatever they see
whatever
fit.
they are, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is as long as it doesn't overly tax your medium systems, if it's good on the medium systems, that's kind of what I think they're going to shoot for too. And so 10 to 15 to 25,000 draw calls, maybe half of what the maximum is. I mean, that's still 25. That's 5 times better than what we're seeing now. But they can't. They have to work within the limited API that they're working with right now. And I feel though that it's taking a while for them to implement Vulcan, but they have to have that implemented for the release of Squadron. And I think that they're having to implement it both in Squadron and in the in the Squadron development platform, as well as in the Star Citizen. Now, I don't know. I mean, maybe they've got it implemented in Squadron, but that it is a single player game. It's not like it's a live running environment that they already have up and running. It's something that they are not showing us. So it may be that they are further along with the implementation of Vulcan there. Maybe implementing not. Vulcan in a multiplayer environment may be a different story. So they're a bit further behind on that. Don't know. I would like to know more. I think we don't get enough. We get a lot of talk about Vulcan. We get a lot of talk, but there's not a lot of information. They talk about it, how important it is, what it can do, but then that's basically it. So, what?
So Chris talked about Vulcan possibly coming later this year. Now, that wouldn't happen unless they've already been working on it for a long time.
Oh, they've been working on it for a long time.
They started working on it in 2016.
With API changes that they cannot show you a partial API change. It's either complete
it
API
works
change.
or it doesn't. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which there is another development stream that's coexisting next to the other 25 development streams that they have running simultaneously.
It's like that guy juggling the plates,
They really are. Yeah, they're spinning all these plates all over the place and shit, So I think, I was going to make another comment. The original Gribbs said the only problem he has with the way the current rest stops look is that even though the interiors are different layouts, they have the same stores, the same colors, blah, blah, blah. But then there's a multi-layered issue with that. And one is assets. They have assets. How many assets can they realistically implement on the limited amount of infrastructure that they have built today? Can they have an unlimited amount of assets to load in? Or are they limited by the infrastructure that they have?
They're limited of the size of your hard drive and the download speed of those who have metered download, etc. So if you look at it this way, we're back to the same thing we talked about earlier. So imagine that this is the goal. We want this many randomized options to go into the pool by the time of launch and be working every time so that we don't have to go in and do any changes. Realistically, it will be this big because they will have to shorten it in a little bit. Now, but in addition to this, there's another layer, and that has to do with how does it look? Is there a carpet there or is it not? Which kind of company is it? Is it ArtCorp or is it person or is it another? Who owns this station? Which race owns this station? Is it in a different system that has a different, how do we put it, way of building things, a big different architectural, way of doing it. And they've already stated that that's going to be a thing. You're going to go to another place, a different system. It's going to look similar because rooms look similar, but it's going to have architectural differences. It's going to be decorated differently. So you can build a room the same way as many times you want, but you can then add another layer of how you place furniture, paintings, lighting on top of that, and then you can another layer on how does the NPCs use this area. That all of that makes for variation, and the more layers you put on top of each other with randomness, although it's a constricted set of randomness, you get the feeling of going to something new. Will you be able to see that you've seen this before? Yes, but when I go from my house to the neighbor's house, which is two completely different houses built by different designers, it still looks the fucking same.
Sure. But if you travel to
I
Detroit,
think
the architecture is different. In Chicago, the architecture is different. In Los Angeles, the architecture is different. So I get what you're saying.
If I open the door, it's still a fucking room inside. It's just different.
Well, so they have talked about like how many layers they have on the moons and how many layers, the texture layers, right? Mm-hmm. The different transparencies, the different texture layers that they have on the moons and on the planets, and how they are using that to really differentiate landscapes and stuff like that. Well, they're going to be able to do very similar stuff with buildings, exteriors, and interiors. But right now, they're not focusing on that. They do have a bunch of people probably on the back end working on just creating textures, just creating props, just creating all of that. Now, when you initially create a prop, one of the things you have to do is you have to go in and go through that polygon reduction phase, right? You first create the high poly, and then you have to create the low poly model. I mean, and we're not talking about the LOD models, which is a completely different aspect in and of itself as well. But with the to bring those in to get that perfect look, you get that first pass with a high poly model. Then you have to. It takes a lot of work to go from make your prop high poly model, make it really good looking, and then reduce it with keeping that high poly look, but with a low poly count. So that's the stuff that's going through. And as they add stuff, which is good, they continue to add those. And they will continue to improve how like object container streaming, we saw that really, really helped a lot, but the server does not do that yet. So when the server starts to do that, we'll start to see a lot of improvements as well. Now, they cannot do their new compression algorithms are coming out all the time. And those new compression algorithms that do come out are helping to decrease the amount of data on your hard drive when it comes to how much space Star Citizen will take up in its eventual an eventual
500 gigabytes minimum.
150 to 200.
I was
That's
thinking
my
300.
guesstimate.
I'm thinking 500.
So, but there is going to be
Yeah.
a lot of there's going to be a lot of reuse that is going to be like if you have 5 layers of textures, some with certain types of transparencies, dirt, and other other instances with colors as well.
Sure, it's
You're
artificial
going to be able to
diversity.
mix and match with the layering, changing what is at what layer, and you're going to be able to really have like literally hundreds of different
Variants,
objects
right. Yeah.
from these same textures, right? So it's just how it's just how they're lit. It's just how they are configured. It is just how the layers are, so this is the kind of thing that they are doing right now so that they don't have to do it in the future. They're building themselves these tools that allow them to do this. And that's what's taking the longest amount of time because, and I try to explain that to people where there is this goal that they want to get to, and then there is this position they're at right now, and then there is this kind of like obscure path that they have to kind of do experimentation. Does this work? Okay, no. Does this work? Okay, no. Does this work? Aha, that works. Okay, good.
Well, that's kind of what the most recent ATV kind of covered that.
Yep.
If it was kind of like a little mind numbing because it's fucking, an overview of art basically, but that's exactly what the one younger kid was saying there. It's just we play with it. We just play with it. We're little kids with clay.
Yeah. But the thing about it is what I liked about it is that they have said that, they're making progress, which is something that we can see with every patch. Yes, it may not be the progress that we always want, right? God dang it, they pushed my ship out again. I want my brand new Defender, damn it.
Right.
But the point is that they are making progress, right? But what I've seen with this latest, that people are, crapping all over the fact that 3.5 is still in the PTU. It's not out yet. Oh, they lied. Oh my God. It's like, no, guys, think about this. We got one server that does not have object container streaming. It does not have bind culling. And it is dealing with all these, an extra 100,000 plus assets that they just added to the verse. One server dealing with 50 people and all these extra assets. They are, the fact that they're in there coding that and working on the network code and working on all that other stuff, it is a testament to how brilliant these net coders and these programmers are. They're doing this balancing act with all this extra stuff in it. Assets in this game that far outnumber the vast majority of other games out there in the world. You look at the level of detail. You go into the room where you spawn at, and you can pick up a freaking ketchup bottle and toss it at somebody. You've got an individual little can of beard wax that you can pick up, carry, and put somewhere else, and it stays there. Right? This is something that the server has to track. So these are the things that they are dealing with. They're going to get to a point, and they've already said that they know that they're very close to that point. I think they're at the point where without object container streaming and bind culling on the server side, they won't be able to add microtech, right? So they're at that point where I think this is the 50 people and this amount of assets in the game is where this is.
Well, they kind of covered that, right? They were going to build a hybrid a server meshing system, like sort of what World of Warcraft uses, and use geographically located servers to control areas now, instead of having the dynamic server instancing like Dual Universe does. They'll say, right, okay, this area of Crusader is going to need to be controlled by a server, and which is a good step because they still need to figure out how the code is going to pass a client on from one server to another and not have the fucking game crash.
Well, I think what they're trying to do right now, and they're still not going to go because they've got to get the server to, okay, this is the pinnacle of what the server can do. So object container streaming and bind culling have to be in, and then they say, okay, we're going to balance it, see how much we can make there, and they're still going to keep 50 people. And then they're going to try to...
Are you trying to look up the barrel of the gun? What are you doing?
What's that?
You looking at what he's got going on?
You can look up the scope, right? You see the way I was doing.
I was just...
and then because in a lot of games, the scope is a fake thing.
But you can actually see through the scope.
You can actually see through it.
Which is a testament to what Uber Nerd was just saying about fucking detail and all this bullshit.
Well, if you look at have you also looked inside the barrels of the ballistic weapons?
So can we do a break as soon as possible?
Yeah, there's riflings in the barrels. There's freaking riflings in the
barrels. Go look
at
the big ship.
The gunship, those.
Yeah, you could look right down the barrel. Yeah, we could take a break, man, and we'll come back and deal with questions and probably drag this out for another 4 hours.
4 hours, right? Okay, music. We'll be back after this. Stay tuned. Get some questions. Where is my? There I am.
Hi.
We'll be back.
Hey. Yay. Sorry.
This is Jared Disco Lando Huckabee, and you're listening to
The Base.
When you're about halfway through a given project, you'll get your estimates about 70% correct.
Well, we've kind of seen that.
Star Citizen.
We've seen that from
all
CIG.
Projects.
Yeah.
If you've ever been a project manager, you'll know that that's all projects. Time estimation and even cost estimating is extraordinarily hard when dealing with a never done before project, right? If you're building an airplane and you got to build an airplane from start to finish, you know exactly what parts are going to be included. You know exactly the type of man hours that are going to be included. You know all that stuff. That's one thing because you know every single step of the way what has to be done. Now, you can't account for injuries. You can't account for storms, weather, that kind of stuff. There are certain things you can't account for, but most projects like that, you don't usually slip too much. You'll have very little slippage in cost and in time. Those are very well accounted for. But in a project where you know your end goal, you know your starting place, and you know nothing in between, those can be like, when are you going to be able to give us? Multi-layered procedural planets? Don't know.
10 years, 2 weeks.
Yeah. 10 years, 2 weeks, six of one, half dozen of another. But the thing is that it came way sooner than they expected. Because
they all come in breakthroughs like that. Yeah, it's all in breakthroughs like that. Like I brought it up the last week or the week before about Evo Herzog's fucking presentation from CitizenCon where he was showing the head morphing with the item attachments morphing along with the head. Yep. And that was something that he gave up on and said, yeah, I guess it can't be done. And my joke was, everybody does their best thinking on the toilet. So one day Evo's sitting there taking a shit, looking at his iPhone and goes, holy fuck, I got it. Sends himself an email, gets to work, codes it out and goes, wow, it worked. Holy shit. Chris is going to be very excited.
And that's a lot of people want the ability to use the slider to change the body shape and sizes. And I keep telling them, don't get your hopes up because the way that the armor fits the body, the way that the weapons fit on the body, the way that all that stuff works is not going to work with the, obese people or women with giant breasts or something like that. It's just not going to work because the armor is specific to those. It's not like, and the thing, they're like, but I want to have that. It's like, yeah, let's look at this more from the terms of, are the attachments that are currently in, they talked about the difficulty of that morphing, the way that it morphs on the heads so far, right? Which is also why you can't have like the Elephant Man kind of head in the game. And it's because it just won't work. There are going to be some limitations. Now they've said
exactly some limitation. You can have itty bitty little boobs, and you can have slightly bigger boobs, and then you can have probably a standard D or a double D. It doesn't really matter which D you get, as long as they're bigger than a B, right? So you will have something to work along. You can have a slightly bigger ass, or you can have skinny asses on your female character if you want, and your male character can be.
That's going to be this case because of how they attach to seats, because of how they fit into the. Chris. Chris. We all know Chris. He is like he wants this level of perfection and demands it. And if there is an excess amount of clipping, he's going to say, nope, that's not going to be in the game.
I would assume that if there's any clipping there, he's He's probably freaking out right now because like the items and the attachments clip.
Yep. I bet you
But
there's a lot of freaking out about how that stuff clips, and he's like, got to figure that one out.
Yeah, but that's what happened. The helmet thing, when they showed how they can get the attachment and the helmets to work, that was just a showcase because that's how the whole body functions. So they will be able to sort that out. You know, they said we won't be able to have capes on, and then they suddenly fixed how they can have tarps all over the place.
That
Potato
blow
sack.
with the engine thrust.
And blow with the wind and draw on almost no resources. So all of this is constantly changing. So not only will you be able to have slightly different body sizes, not much,
Slightly different.
slightly different. We're agreeing there. You won't be able to go from scrawny to Hulk. You will be closer to normal, and then through normal and slightly above normal.
Well, there's an explanation for that, though, you know, like a legitimate real life explanation for that today. It's called genome mapping and CRISPR. And everybody in 2948, 2949, we're all genetically engineered.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and then there's also the idea that you know, you have to have like, okay, what's the story? Most of the people in the game were at one time serving in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Isn't that the whole idea? Is that we're, you know, retired from the military, and that's, you know, that's where our story starts or something like that. Even if you don't play Squadron 42, there still is this backstory of that. But I mean, so, you know, they were asked, are you going to ever allow, you know, obese characters? And it's like, well, they wouldn't be able to sit in any of the seats. So no, right? Chris doesn't want that. He, you know, now they have said that, you know, maybe a not undefined torso as compared to the six pack and the perfect, you know, the perfect chiseled body, maybe undefined, or, you know, slightly just a skosh pudgy, but not so much that it would, that would touch the sides of the seats in a way that would go over, right? So again, they're not going to allow too much variation. Some, of course, but not so much that it would clip into the seats. And the seats are a set size. The cockpits of the, you know, all of the fighters are a set size. There's a set, you know, so they're not going to go outside of that set size. They've also said, and I think this is something that a lot of people are not going to be prepared for, is that you're not going to be wearing heavy armor or medium armor in a seat. The best you'll probably get is the light armor. Also, you're not going to be running through every town or every city fully decked out in armor with all your weapons on. They're going to, you know, that's what those gates are at the spaceports. You're going to be like, they're going to be like, halt. Go to the change room, get out of your armor, get out of your weapons, you know. And I said they'll probably allow like certain people to carry weapons if you have a high reputation with the Hurston Corporation. Like, man, they love you. They'll be like, yeah, you got a license to carry a pistol in our city, right? There'll be that. They've also said that they are planning on bringing in like secret passageways where you might be able to smuggle in a weapon and go take care of your, you know, unsightly business of assassination or whatever, but you're taking the chance of getting caught too. So there's going to be all of these balanced areas in terms of, you know, people right now wear their armor everywhere. Never take it. Well, some people take it off, but most of the time you'll see people just running around in their spacesuits, which I think
why?
Because they don't have to.
Yeah, because the armor is the best looking shit in the game. The clothing they have is fucking horrendous.
Yeah, some of it's okay, but you know, a lot of it is, you know, like, what?
Yeah, I'm not extremely impressed with the fashion designers in 2948.
Well, I like that. Like, there's a tactical jacket that's at Grim Hex, and there's some nice pants and boots over there with these, the face melter shirt.
Oh, look, it's blue.
That together, yeah, that stuff looks good. But I mean, there is going to be eventually a point where the game itself will say, nope, you're not allowed to wear your armor or weapons inside the city limits. It's just not going to be allowed. But the AI is just not at the point where they can do that yet. So I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on the AI as of yet? I know that the one thing Chris talked about in what was it, the CitizenCon, was they said, thank God we got the object container streaming done. That was something we were kind of worried about. Were we going to be able to get it in? Because it was desperately needed for Squadron.
Subsumption.
So the next bit is now he's worried about, he was asked the question. He said, well, the only thing I'm really worried about right now is AI. So
you have to, before we start down that rabbit hole, you have to remember when he says worried, he doesn't say, can it be done? He's worried, can I get it good enough in time for his liking? There's a difference. Because it doesn't take a long time to get better than the AI in any other game. The actual best AI I've seen to date, other than a really heavily modded Arma 3, extremely heavily modded AI, is the AI that we actually have in the Division 2.
Other than the fact that they intentionally come out from behind cover to let you shoot them because they want the game to move. That's programmed in.
That's the problem, is that's the best they have. That's the best there is. That's the best AI there is currently. Except for Arma 3, heavily modded by skilled AI people.
Which AI base code do they use in Arma 3? Do you know? Is it Kythera?
They have their own code for that, and the scripters then have put on layers on top of that. So what's basically happening is they're doing what Chris is doing with his game. They're adding multiple layers of decision on top of another. So the game itself has AI control over the local AI, and then a basic overall control from call it HQ. Then the modders add in, if the leaders gets down inside a group, a local group, they scatter. They are much less cohesive. They take much longer to get somewhere. If the radio operator is down, you can't talk to HQ properly, etc. Stuff like this. And then you have a local area boss that dictates where the local area troops, you have the HQ detected the different local area bosses. And this way, you have a multi-layer control of the AI operating in a fashion that seems like they're chasing you or reacting to what you're doing. So, doesn't mean that every AI movement is fantastic. The AI can't drive for shit in Arma 3. Basically, they get stuck everywhere and all that stuff, but that is again the best there is, and it doesn't take a lot to go beyond that setting. And a really old game that did a lot of right things, if you remember back when it's something called SWAT 3 and SWAT 4, the AI in there they were programmed with different parameters where sometimes they give up, sometimes they shoot. Although they were clunky, they had their movement path was mapped into the map itself. It is not random at all, basically, where they move, like it is in Star Citizen. Just adding in those components, because they've talked about Arma, they've talked about SWAT 3 as example of what they want to go. They've hired people from both those, specifically SWAT 4. There are people from SWAT that worked on SWAT 4 that's actually working in CIG. And that's their, how should we put it? Where they draw inspiration from.
Yeah, out of the 100 open positions,
AI programmers up there.
5 are AI. 5 open positions for AI. So they really do need to build that team. It's really hard to build up AI in this day and age, especially with all of the different companies and different different professions that are now saying, hey, we're going to use AI and self-driving cars and all of the different businesses now that are starting to use AI programming. It's kind of
why.
But the thing is that takes away from the game development, because those bigger corporations are probably going to be able to pay a lot more. Even though it's not game development, it certainly is going to be like, oh yeah, well,
Sure, but there are also a lot of people that work at CIG that are not doing it for the money. They're doing it to be in something that's groundbreaking to make
Right. No, I
know.
understand that. But again, it's that you're going to get the people that want to be a part of something groundbreaking about, in something really pushing the envelope. And then you're going to lose the people who are going like, you know what? I gotta cement my place and support my family. So I'm going with, Tesla instead, or I'm going with NVIDIA, working on their AI teams.
You know
and
why
the
it's
AI
hard to
teams
get
for NVIDIA are not necessarily game AI. They're more of, machine learning stuff for different areas of industry. But the thing that I noticed yesterday in the game is we were out there fighting around Hurston, and we destroyed the quantum interdiction ship, and then I went to go chase the Aurora, and it quantumed away. the NPC ran.
That's good.
Yeah, I was like, that's the first time I've ever seen an NPC actually
Make a choice.
not just stand there and be a potato and get shot, right?
Yep.
It ran. So that was pretty cool. I was really happy to see that. And I think that what they've said is that what you'll notice is that the AI will become less responsive the longer a server is up. And it's because of the fact that the server is the one that is making the ultimate decision for how the AI
Sure,
is
and when
supposed
it's
to
pumping
respond.
out 5 FPS server side on data processing, there's so much data being calculated on these servers that that's their goal is 30 FPS minimum to process all these calculations.
Yep. So think about
server meshing.
Once they get server meshing is not the one that'll solve the AI issue. It'll be object container
streaming server side.
It'll be object container streaming and meshing. the net bind or the bind culling and object container streaming will free up so many resources that it will be able to then apply a lot more capability to the AI. Now, server meshing, of course, is going to help to split the load, but overall, human beings, the players themselves, are going to congregate, which is going to make it easier to, because right now the server has to pay attention to stuff regardless of whether or not you're there, right? It has to basically, it can't just, say, okay, I'm going to put that on hold, and there's going to be an algorithm that's going to say that this stuff is moving, but it's not, I don't have to actually pay attention to it. And then when I come back to it, I should be able to put those when a player comes in there, I should be able to activate these items, these assets in their new position based upon the algorithm, based upon all that stuff, but it doesn't have to constantly attend to it. Right now, the server has to attend to every single piece of, prop, every single AI, every single thing in the game has to be at all times paid attention to, which is what's loading down this. I think what they're trying to see right now is how much they can load the server with 50 players. So they're just continue. That's why they haven't increased the player count. They said that they could. They've already said that, yeah, we can do that. But I think what they're trying to do is see how many assets they can put into the game before without
tanks everything. Sure.
Yeah. So they want to see, okay, with 50 players, and because that'll also tell them what they need to do when it comes to server meshing, right? They'll know the limits of their server capabilities, and then they'll be able to program that into the meshing part of that.
The hell was that?
They're all disappearing.
Oh, your server's getting ready to shit the bed. My pony said, couldn't the AI get their own CPU extra? I think what that means is like a thread or their own server. The question is, it's probably not a native language speaker, so it says, couldn't AI get their own CPU extra? Question mark.
Well, so they've talked about this, and they're putting different things in different threads. They're not there yet on the server side. They're more there on the client side, but not on the server side. Later on, it's not that big of an issue because you assign certain. Usually, a server will have 12 or 24 or 36 cores and X amount of threads. Divided in there by 2 or added by 2, and server load is usually not a problem. but the server isn't, the progression of development, the R&D for servers is not where, it's supposed to be. And it's because they're not designing this game to run on a single server. They're designing this game to be server mesh. So one big ass server can have multiple threads divided up on different meshes. So it's
they're trying right now. What they're doing is trying to see just how much of a load a single server can take. And then once they figure out that, okay, this is the maximum without object container streaming or bind culling on the server, this is the maximum it can do. Then you add those in and then you load it up again and say, okay, now that we've added these in, what's that next level? So I think once they get that in there, and I think they want to get object container streaming and bind culling on the server side, then add the rest of the Stanton system in, and then just start to load that sucker down. And
see what happens.
Yeah, to see what happens. So they're gonna get, once they get the whole system built, they're gonna probably increase the server player count, and then see, okay, this is a single server. This is using all of the tricks that we can do, like object container streaming is a trick to, keep it feeling big while at the same time not having the server have to focus on everything. Now, they'll probably have a test where, okay, everybody go to a different, everybody go to a different location. If you see a player, go somewhere else, right? Let's see if you see a player, try to go far away so that the server has to pay attention to more and more things. See if we can, how much can we make this server do before it really needs to start switching to another server?
Sure,
right?
But that'll be some Evocati focused shit.
Well, yeah, of course,
your average Joe playing Star Citizen today is not always in tune with the requests made in what do they call it? Regression testing.
Oh, regression testing, yeah.
So, and that was one thing that always sticks with me is usually it seems to get lost on a lot of the community that's involved in the project right now that we're still testing. I can't play the game. No, you can't, because you were never intended to play the game today. You were intended to help
at the moment. It's an alpha test environment.
Technology. So, and I get it, right? Because I want to play Star Citizen really bad. I want to play Squadron 42 like really effing bad. Yep. So bad that this goddamn new EA bullshit game that they just teased, Jedi, the fuck was
looks inviting.
Jedi Fallen Order or whatever the fuck it's called. It's supposed to release this year in November. I'm like, oh, I'll play that, even though it's EA, and I hate EA.
No, but it's fine. The game will be released in a state that a person we all trust, Chris, will be happy with, or to put it another way, he'll be happy enough to.
That's the key, right?
Because he will never be happy perfectly. So it's just about happy enough. And having trust in that whatever we're doing now is temporary and it's not indicative of how the gameplay is going to be later is key when you look at what's going on right now.
It's tough. And I get it. I want to see the game succeed and the company succeed, and I want to see Chris be able to buy a fucking $10 million mansion for all of his efforts and lack of sleep through all this shit, and I want a great game, and I want it now.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Yeah. But the progress, like this last patch really just, I think a lot of people just...
What are they on? V? Or U?
I don't know. Not the patch but I mean 3.5 itself.
Oh, okay.
Once people started flying over the city at night and going, wait, what? And flying over a city
cool, dude.
I know, right? So a lot of I had a couple people come into my stream and they were saying, I really didn't think that, I thought this was all kind of a scam. And then I saw somebody flying over this city planet and fly down in amongst the buildings, and I was like, yeah, what? They came and they were like asking all these questions because they're like, I was convinced it was a scam. Now I'm not so sure about myself anymore, you know? And I was like, well, that's because the people that, there are people who, you know, get views. They get the angry clickbait and the cynical views. And they thrive off of that. And so they promote these, they push this kind of narrative that, oh yeah, it's like it's a scam. And it's like,
sure. You ever troll YouTube and just look at shit and see that like the top 10 worst traffic accidents ever have like fucking 50 million views?
I know, right?
That and cat videos. People dying and cats.
Well,
and
the cat videos are never going, you know, it's honestly,
being stupid.
Yes.
It's the sentient cats that are have actual control over the internet, and they just haven't let us know that yet. So,
Unless the cat is killing shit, you know, actually hunting, being predatory, I don't watch cat
Yeah, but
videos
people want
at
to
all.
feel all warm and fuzzy and shit. But my pony, you're funny, man. That's
Light
funny
a fire
shit.
on your ass.
Yeah, he says I have an invite to the PTU, but I don't use it because I'm lazy and I just watch others play it until it's in beta, which is not a bad plan. If you want to avoid frustration, especially PTU builds, phew, man, sometimes I'm just oh my god.
I know, but you're like, oh my god, let's do that again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, what the hell? You know, after a little bit, you know, you're steamed. I gotta go take a walk, get a cup of coffee, and then come right back and like, all right, we'll do that again.
Yeah, because we're the hardcore are masochists. For sure.
We are.
Yeah,
We
you just love the
certainly
pain and suffering.
But it's also, you get to go out there and you get to discover these vistas. And like, I climbed to the top of a mountain on Lyria yesterday, and I was just like, oh my god, that's just incredible. You know, with the clouds going past, you know, and I'm up on this peak, and I'm like, oh geez, this is just crazy that, you know, I'm probably standing on a mountain peak on this moon where no other player, and that includes the developers, have stood. Right.
Sure.
And it just kind of hits you like, wow, this is big. And you look across these vistas and you look at the stuff that they've built, and you look at the, you know, knowing that the sun going across the sky is basically this individual light source in the middle of the solar system that's stationary, where the planets and moons are rotating, giving you that sunset and sunrise. You know, it's just like, wow.
The tech is insane. You know what? I was really excited to hear on TV that they are actually looking into ways to reduce the ground clutter so that you can get in your damn cyclone and burn ass,
right?
Instead of dodge rocks. Because I just want to fucking fly. I want to fly out to the top of that hill, not steer around all this shit and have the freaking buggy go flying and flipping over and have to rock the freaking turret to get it back up.
Wheel.
You know, well, they I'm glad they fixed that, because remember, it used to take about 30 seconds and the wheels would just come off that bitch.
I know, right?
So at least they're more durable. Then you would think that in the future they would be able to take quite a beating.
Yeah, so
I've seen some
the
Volkswagen bugs take a hell of a beating.
What they're producing is like I would go land on Hurston out in these desert plains, and you would look from side to side across your screen, and you would see it would just be flat. Mm-hmm. And you'd be like, I'm on a sphere. You know, you flew down, no loading screens at all. You landed, you got out, you got your vehicle out, you're driving around, and you know you're on a sphere, but you're not looking at, I mean, it's just like any other map in any other game, except for the fact that you know it's just this giant sphere in the game, and that the sunsets and sunrises are not some artifact of a skybox that somebody created, but instead it is this it's natural, you know, it's pretty cool. So
yeah, what was that Chris said about the giant crater on Del? You could fit the entirety of the Skyrim Elder Scrolls map inside of that one crater.
Yep.
And that's one crater on one little tiny ass astral body.
Yeah, in fact, Delamar is the smallest of the astral bodies out there, not including the giant asteroids that are misshapen, right? It's the smallest of the spherical planets, moons, and planetoids, right? It's the smallest. And yet the large crater on the surface of Delamar is bigger, could hold the entire map of Skyrim.
That's fucking crazy. That's something that gets lost on people too, I think, is the scale. Or it really doesn't when you're in quantum and it takes 20 minutes to get somewhere. Then you really get a good grasp of the scale.
Yeah, so
someone needs to make a flat Earth game. Yeah, Stealth. That'd be fucking hilarious.
except that I think the funny thing about that is I'm convinced the vast majority of people pushing the whole flat Earth thing are just trolls.
Yeah, they know it's
just looking to get people's, see how many people I can trigger. And then there are some, completely gullible, low information people that are just like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, but they usually don't have that West Virginia accent. They're usually from like Long Beach, California.
Yeah, it's true. That is true.
It's true. Or maybe like Maryland.
Oh,
yeah, man. The Earth is flat, dude. Did you know
that?
We're gonna go surf, man. But the Earth is like flat and shit, man.
That's right.
Are we still talking about flat Earth? So,
I don't know. Were you sleeping?
No, we're just not paying attention.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. No, we got to do questions because it's past 5 and Rellim's just going. If you ever wonder how Rellim gets all these crazy ass screenshots to post on, what is it? Is it Tools? Star Citizen Tools? Is that what you do?
Recently, yes, because they lack a lot of updated images for some of the ships, and so someone pointed out on Twitter that the actual RSI store has the same problem.
Which we made a comment that CIG should really get Turbulent to work with people like Rellim, WeHamster, Hezgaha. There's a few other that I shouldn't have mentioned any names because I can't name them all, that do like brilliant fucking screenshots. And have them work with them to get updated, beautiful images of this instead of these stock shit photos that are on the ship matrix anyway. And the store, all of it. Redo it. Because Turbulent, what are they doing?
Well, we were talking about the ship matrix. Wasn't that supposed to be fixed? And yet it's not.
Yeah, Jared was in charge of providing the data to get input.
So the ship store, they show that the Freelancer DUR has 28 SCU, and yet it has 36. You go to any place, you load up. So it's like, what the hell? The ship matrix says it has 28. It does not. And I had to tell my viewers yesterday, don't follow the ship matrix. It's not correct.
Yeah.
I'd say probably maybe 50% of the stuff on the ship matrix is right, and then 50% is not. And unless you really intimately know each ship that you have, if it's not out yet, then it's all, just consider it to be all wrong, right? Until you get it out and you can touch it and you can see, oh yeah, all right, this says I can fill it up with 36 SCU of cargo rather than 28, right? Or whatever, right? So, and then of course there's the whole rigmarole of the Reliant core having 6 SCU of cargo when originally it was sold to have 30. It's like, well, that seems like a big difference.
That was a bitch, right?
Well, but they originally said, the engineers who designed it, and then or should I say the artists who designed it, the concept, and then the people who actually built it, there was a miscommunication on size. It was supposed to be much bigger when they originally talked about it, because it was supposed to have 30 cubic meters of cargo space. It was supposed to be that in between. And I think even if they had, I think they should have sized it up. I even showed how they could easily make it into a 24, have 12 SCU on each side of the little hallway there, and make it be a 24 SCU ship. It would be right in between the small.
Yeah, but it's a starter ship. How are they going to sell that for $80?
85, right?
It's 85 now, but how are they going to sell it for double the money if it's not if it's a starter ship? That's part of the problem with pricing and ship matrix and all this other crap. That's a whole nother fucking road that we're not going to go down.
Right. So what are the questions we got?
Do we have questions? I can find them.
Yeah.
Two.
Since Rellim is... Oh, there's only 2.
Jeez, you people are dropping the ball out there. Come on, get yourselves in. Pick up the pace here. Watches of stuff.
Georgep357 asked, do you think the rehash of Cathay Aerospace lore post is indicative of the next concept sale?
Yeah, it usually is. I think, yeah.
But we didn't leave much room for question because we were so goddamn deliberate and focused on our discussion that everything was crystal.
Right. Well, that's
like grade A diamonds in this bitch.
That's right. That's right.
Well, that's good because we're late anyway. And Game Glass
maybe industrial diamonds, but nothing more.
Game Glass asked, is Uber Nerds green screen actually a green tarp? And I think I addressed that and said I thought it was a green shower curtain.
It's not a shower curtain. It's not a tarp. It's a cloth.
It's real shiny.
It's not shiny. It's just it's just a cloth back here. It's just a.
On your other side, there's like a glare.
Oh,
must be a bright ass light right there.
Yeah, there is a brightest light. It's called the outside.
Oh my god, it's a ball in the sky.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's called outside.
If any of you
I don't know what that
have ever
is.
gone outside your house, there's this bright orange ball in the sky. We call that the sun. So,
well, that's cool. We're done. Questions are over. Is there anything else that you would like to bring up, Mr. Uber Nerd?
well, I wanted to let you guys know that I appreciate what you guys do here, and just the chat and the talk and the no BS when you guys are talking about different aspects. I like the polite banter back and forth that we can have without disagreeing or agreeing to disagree or talking about that stuff and working it out.
Fucking hate that
children,
term. Do you hate that term?
What's
Does
that?
anybody else hate that term? We need to agree to disagree.
Well, I mean, yeah.
That means I think you're a fucking asshole and I'm done talking to you. That's what agree to disagree means.
I guess that's not the one I was looking for then. I think what I was looking for is we disagree on these subjects and we can still talk about them. Isn't that what it's about? It's become what you said there, is that I don't agree with what you're saying, so I'm going to shout you down or shut you up or just walk
in
away.
General internet terms, I think that's where that has ended up. We just need to agree to disagree because you're a fucking
agreeing that we disagree with each other and yet still discussing something is what
It's called being civil.
Right. That's what it was supposed. That's what it's supposed to be.
Not polite, civil.
So yeah, there's a difference for sure. Yeah, because I'm kind of polite.
Well, polite is such a subjective term.
It is.
Right?
So is offense. Somebody in there said something about being offended that I glossed over in chat. What did I said something and somebody said I'm offended. But he was joking for sure. No, he was joking, but I wanted to hit on that. But
I get a lot of my crew will come in and say, that's offensive.
Everything's fucking offensive.
Because we like to tease those
because
people.
That's the point of
Professor
it.
Dave.
But it's kind of what do you call it? It's food for our souls when somebody get offended by what we say.
I know, it feeds
because
us.
we are careful with
your tears sustain me.
We are careful with our words. We actually think about what we say before we say it.
No, you don't.
And
well, that's because we've been saying the same thing for 4 years. Well, so it's easy.
But then again, when somebody is less than thoughtful and decides to be offended by something they don't understand, it feeds the soul of old grumpy souls.
Yes, that's right. We like that kind of stuff. We like to be
crushing the feels.
Me too.
I do. I love crushing the field.
I get very how would you call it? Assertive, very like I'm right, you're wrong kind of stuff. Yeah. You can have your opinion, but it's wrong. So they're like, oh, I can see them behind their keyboard. Well, that's just
Do you like this one today, Dave? This is like I kicked my wife out. Her desk was right there, so there's like 2 racks with a bunch of Star Citizen shit. You can kind of see the 890 jump brochure. There's 2 Jump Point books and fucking the Chairman's Club thing and all that. And that's my PC building rack with the kids' Legos that I've been trying to get rid of. But my wife is like, you can't get rid of the Legos. Like, you know, they have computers now. They build Legos like virtually now. You don't even need to touch them anymore. Anybody want some Legos? Because they got a lot.
My kid has my Lego from when I was small, so he has more than enough.
It's almost done. The standing desk is in order. I just need to get the 2 32-inch models. But I posted in the Discord, if I buy them today, my wife will literally kill me.
Look at it this way. Now you can wait, and there's a new 43-inch from Acer out. 4K.
I don't want
144 hertz upgrade.
Speaking of 4K, that's one of those things that I love to trigger people who are like all on the VR. VR, it's the way it is. I said it's just a gimmick. Just a gimmick. Until they have it 144 hertz, 90 FPS minimum all the time at 4K, it is a gimmick. It is not real. It's just a little toy. Just like, you know, back in the day, it's compared to my computer now and a speak and spell. Right? You know, and I think it really, that triggers the crap out of people. Like, oh my God, it's not that. You gotta, take it back. VR is not a gimmick. It's real. It's like
the only thing I've seen cool is Beat Saber. And Beat Saber is good. Uh-oh.
VR. This is what you look when you look into a VR screen now. You see this. 1 pixel. Pixel number 2. Pixel number 3.
The screen door.
Pixel number 4.
A poor piece of paper.
And bring it in.
It looks like shite. I can't believe that anyone want to watch that for more than 3 seconds.
Many trees were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Look, VR, people do need to get in on the ground floor at the very, very early development stages. But again, this is, if you want to compare when I want to use VR, I want to use VR at the stage where it is 4K per eye, where there's no screen door effect, where there's no motion blur, where you can turn your head quickly and it is just as easy to look at your environment that you're in right now in real life as it would be inside the until it gets to that, it's a gimmick. Because it'll make most people sick.
People or businesses need to get involved. Businesses. People, it's just a gadget that you want to spend money on. Just like how many gadgets is in your closet that you never use? VR is one of them. Piece of shit.
I believe in the support of it. If you want to support it, that's cool, but it's still a gimmick. There you go. And people don't look like, no, it's not a gimmick. It's like,
okay, then when is VR coming to Star Citizen? That seems to be a hot fucking topic.
When is VR coming? It's
Chris have stated it very clearly. When it meets the visual fidelity that he demands, not before.
Yep. And he also said there are a lot of steps before VR can even be considered.
Oh, Vulcan's one of them for sure.
Yeah, Vulcan is one. But a lot of people were like, oh, so as soon as we get Vulcan, VR is here. I'm like, no. You think that that's the case, but that's not the case.
You got fucking Innovis, all kinds of triggered.
Yeah.
I do?
So,
yeah,
I have to look at the chat
He said you're clueless. You have
Thank
no idea.
you.
That's it.
You know what I said? You know what I used to say? You know what I said to my ex-wife when she said something stupid? You're right, honey. You're absolutely right.
But it is going in the right direction. The fact that they're raising money by selling all this stuff out there, everything starts off gimmicky. I mean, look at the PCs when they look at computers when they first started, those little 8-bit, 20K, the VIC-20. I mean, man, that was a long time ago. There's the screens that were really, like if you did the on the VIC-20, there was this maze game where you were like, walking through the maze and you'd turn and it's like, oh, good, it's 3D. Oh my God. We can see now, if I, as a kid, could have seen what we have now. It's just night and day. But that's where VR is right now. VR is currently at the Commodore 64 stage.
What the fuck was the game when you used to be this guy who ran across the flats, just a linear game, and you would grab a vine and swing over?
Oh, Jungle. Was it Jungle Hunt?
And you would jump over alligators and stuff. And this is way back in like the Atari 2600 days.
Yeah, Pitfall.
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 Yep. I thought that game was crazy, boy.
Yep,
just crazy.
Pitfall was awesome.
It was.
I played the crap out of that game with my joystick with a single red button on the base, right? Oh my God!
Yes, exactly, the Atari 2600.
So talking about visual fidelity. Which one of you not so common Star Citizen players are going to be using ultra wide 1440p or higher 4K when the game comes out?
1440 for me, probably.
4K, already there, been there for years.
I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do for monitors. I gave my 1440 34-inch ultra wide to my oldest kid. That game right there.
You want a new one?
Well, there's always an angle there, but he's a good kid, so
means you get a new one.
Well, I'm got two 24s right now.
When they can get a 4K monitor to go at at 144 hertz and not be $3,000.
Well, that's $3,000 things. It's something else, but the new 43 from Acer is 144 hertz.
Yeah, 4K. But
4K.
it's also freaking like $1,800, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
American,
or more,
or more. I think. Yeah.
Not for one monitor. I can't.
I got chips to buy. 1440p also because it's easier for me to go from 1440p to what I put out on my stream, right? So you have to basically convert, and it takes less resources to convert from 1440p to what I output on the stream.
Well, what I can tell you, what that I do for most games, out of necessity, because my wallet isn't shite money.
What's the gray to gray on that one you're talking about? Like that? Is it 5 milliseconds or
In 4K, it's probably 5 or 6.
Yeah,
it's not
I was going to
one.
say because I want 1 millisecond gray to gray, and you're not going to get that with 4K, at least not right now. So
yeah, but do you think does it really matter
it does
your age?
It basically it does, because I can see the motion blur even when you turn motion blur off. It's still, if it doesn't gray to gray, if it doesn't have a fast enough gray to gray, I can actually see that the faster I turn. So
for sure.
Yeah. So
do you have motion blur on in the game?
No, I turn it off, but even with it off, you can still see if it has if you have a system that has too slow of a gray to gray.
It takes time for the pixels to frickin'
it can
redraw, because they got to turn yeah. That's funny.
But you know that you're actually sitting there looking for this stuff, because if you're immersed in the game, you don't see this stuff at all.
Oh, I do.
When you have nothing to do, you start thinking about everything else you learn, you read.
I see it when I'm in combat. I see it when there's a lot of fast moving things around my ship, or when I'm in combat leaning around corners and that kind of thing and trying to pick out targets really quickly. I see it. When I'm just, flying through the scene, looking at, how beautiful it is, I don't see it. But it's when you're in close combat with other ships, even with motion blur turned off, you see the effect of it, right? And it's
part of the thing. It's like those that say once you go 2K, you can never go back to 1080p. It's kind of the same principle. Once you notice it once, you notice it every fucking time.
Like the screen door effect on VR, right? As soon as you see it, you can never unsee it. And then every single thing you see in VR is like, oh crap, now I see that stupid screen door effect everywhere. Mm-hmm. So that's why it ruined it. Once I saw it, then I could never unsee it. And I was like, now No more VR for me. Thank God I didn't buy the headsets. My friend, he got both the Vive and the Oculus, and it was like I played a couple of games, and then one game I saw it, and then for the rest of the time I could never unsee it. And I was like, crap. So I was like, all right.
So I think that they should do what they do on TVs. Remember what they do? They add in images between images. They can increase the frequency of, and this is a technology I think that a lot of game monitors could benefit from. Where there's
Isn't that what FreeSync or G-Sync is for? Isn't that what they do there to stop tearing?
Kind of, but it's more than that. Remember, you cannot really get a 4K. We're not talking about 1080p screens here. Those are for, CSGO players. But when we're talking about higher resolutions and you want to really be at a fidelity level and you want everything to be really up there, you're not going to get anywhere close, not even 5 gray to gray on a big screen monitor. I mean, the closest one we have now to gaming monitor for a big 55 inch is the NVIDIA one, 65 inch thing. It doesn't get 5 milliseconds gray to gray at all. Not even.
Because there's not too many fucking pixels.
That's for consoles.
Yeah, but
So that's not real gaming.
Of course, it's real gaming. But what they
console plebes?
What they do on that? They have it. That is a full blown TV, which they added game
mode.
Yeah, not game. But they added a game sync to it. So what they can do in there is use the TV feature, which also you have on a lot of projectors, for those who want to use SIMPITs and stuff like this. It's where they add in images, because you have a certain frequency, and then you add in images in between that flows out the image. So you get rid of the tearing effect, you get rid of the motion blur, but it's not perfect for gaming, but it's not bad for gaming. I mean, I had a monitor that was up there in the 40s at one point. Not monitor, I had a projector on a 102-inch, 103-inch projector screen. And
well, there's a screen door effect for you.
There was no screen door effect on it. But it was a high-end monitor. It was only 1080p, but the fidelity and the color clarity in the black room, of course, was amazing. Imagine a game coming at you where it's actually almost 3 meters from one edge to the other. It fills up the whole bloody room, and the room is big, in the diagonal. So, or close to 2.8 yards or something.
Yeah, are we drunk yet?
Fidelity.
Fidelity is the thing we're talking about. So you want to be blown away by every minutia. I want to be blown away, like somebody said here, by the game itself. I want the colors, what's happening to just overwhelm me. That's why I'm still sitting on a TV, a 55-inch TV. Because I can't sit on something small like this monitor which this camera is standing on. I have to have something that is very large in my face. So
but then the color representation needs to be accurate as well. Rellim got that mass drop monitor for a fucking great price, but then he put on Star Citizen, and something about the way that it processed black didn't work properly, so it wasn't black. And the gradation wasn't.
What kind of monitor was it?
Some Chinese knockoff shit. I don't even remember.
It was just a basic.
So the stuff that I'm looking forward to is the quantum dot technology coming down in price, because where they have those, where it's a true black because it basically is off.
Shuts off.
Yeah, so they can get really, really true black colors rather than having some sort of backlight. Every single pixel is its own light. Now, if they can do that at a 4K level, then yeah, that. But the thing is that those things are extraordinarily expensive, and I can't wait for them to come down in price.
But they
But,
don't have that with
It's the
G-Sync. It's 60 hertz.
it's the OLED technology, right? It's that quantum dot
No,
OLED.
So I thought quantum dot was the LED version of for Samsung's quantum dot you're talking about, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So it's not OLED. It's an enhanced LED version. It has almost the black level of OLED, but it has.
I think OLED. I think the one I want is the OLED, not the quantum dot.
Okay.
So the quantum dot still uses the backlight, whereas the OLED does not, and that's the one I want. Is the OLED tech, because the OLED tech is. But the problem is that when they start to get up in size, they start to get extraordinarily expensive, and their lifespan doesn't last as long.
No, so that's why you want to actually. Your initial thought was correct. You want the quantum dot.
Well,
because
yeah,
it has near black level, and it has a lot of the zones for which it turns off the black levels to gray level to white is very, very small. Compared
OLED
to
is the one
LED.
I'm really waiting for, because it has the
But
fastest
I think you will
time.
have. I think it doesn't have the fastest response time. It doesn't. The technology doesn't have it. So
Today,
the technology, they're not capable of delivering fast response time on OLED at all. They have faster response. The fastest TV you can get, or the fastest quantum dot and OLED, is a quantum dot, and I think it's at 11 milliseconds. And that's at 4K, of course, measured at 1080p on a 4K screen.
nerds nerding out.
I know, right?
Yeah. You never hear Rellim because I don't engage him. I don't even know what. I asked him a question
MSI
about
optics.
It's like 5 minutes later. But he's polite and he's Dutch, so he doesn't interrupt that much. And he just
Stupid stuff.
He should.
Even with All right.
Should that be in your
All right.
headphones? Right.
No, yeah. So some of it goes to my headphones and some of it goes to my outside speakers, but I normally don't ever have that stuff on there.
So one last question. When it comes to monitors, TVs, VR, augmented reality glasses for use with your TV, where you have some sort of edge control over your screen, so that wherever you look with your glasses, either over your normal glasses, or if you don't need glasses, you just have augmented reality glasses on that allows you to get a heads-up display in your fucking glasses. That's the future of gaming, not VR.
I don't know. I wouldn't.
How would you
I'd say
apply that to
is the
gaming?
future of one aspect of gaming, but not all. Because there's only so much. If you're talking about projecting out in front of you an entire scene, it's kind of like, if you can do it where it would be opaque enough to block out what's out there, that's one thing. But I think that you still do kind of need the VR. So there are two different types where you're interacting with, like they showed with the Microsoft augmented
Clear
reality glasses, where you could do Minecraft on your table, right? That's one thing, but it's not every game is going to be quite able to fill.
That's not
that
what we're
niche.
talking about. That's not what we're talking about.
That's
it might be
augmented,
glasses
right?
that has that capability, but augmented reality is also a 3D representation in your glasses of any object, including a heads-up display for your ship, your radar when you're walking in FPS. When you're looking somewhere, imagine that you have a head tracking for that thing because you need to. You're looking there. That's where you're aiming your cannon when you're shooting.
Sure. So are you saying that augmented reality glasses, AR glasses,
in conjunction with a screen in front of you so that you have, that,
A big fucking screen.
And well, it depends on how,
A giant
it's
wraparound
really
screen.
simple. If you sit this close to your fucking screen, it can be very fucking small, but it gets hard on your eyes for a while. So the further back you go, the bigger your screen needs to be.
I can't even touch the screen anymore. I can't even touch the camera.
I can't touch it with my fucking feet, and I'm sitting laid back. So
Well, good on you.
The problem with AR displays is that they're long term. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that in there with these types of displays. That's why I mean,
your eyes were designed to work in a certain way, and whenever you start manipulating that, it's going to cause problems. That's just the way that it is.
but it's easier on the resources to have a TV or monitor working together with augmented reality glasses than it is to have really high fidelity VR working. The resources required for those two are very different.
right.
Great.
We done? I want to kill shit.
Okay.
You wanna
we'll
kill shit?
I want
Well,
to eat. I'm fucking.
Oh, he wants to eat. Okay, so I guess it's that time now. Now that the female character is in, will we see Eden start anytime soon? Would you go ask her? I don't.
Start hammering her ass on Twitter.
Right?
Isn't she just finishing up some of her school? Like she's been really. It's
No,
kind of
she's licensed now.
That was,
Oh, okay. So she's done with all that.
She's trying to work 10 jobs and buy a
Oh,
house.
well, there you go.
And go to yoga and have fun with her friends and do theme night. Like what the hell were those
D&D.
things called? No, where they dressed up in like weird clothes and had like
Steampunk.
They do like steampunk murder mystery
LARP.
in real life.
Oh, yeah. Like what? Furries? I don't know.
Oh,
No,
yes,
not that.
but like without the fur. But yeah, they do all kinds of crazy shit. She's a busy kid.
LARPing.
I don't know what LARPing means.
Live action role play.
Oh, see. I learned something today. Thank you, Meffet.
Well, people that run marathons know they don't have to.
You don't technically have to do anything. She's trying to live.
Then pay your taxes.
Normal is a very subjective term. I think to me, doing this is normal, but other people would say I'm fucking weird as shit.
So what?
You are. That's why we like to hang out with you.
My wife thinks all of us are fucking completely crazy. She tells
We
us
are.
that all the time.
We're nuts. I mean,
True.
who spends thousands of dollars on
Shoes.
on
True
Cars.
story.
Racing cars.
Boats, motorcycles,
digital
you name it.
assets?
It's all the same. It's all a hobby is a hobby. It is what it is.
That's right.
Some
How
people
many
spend
men-
tens
Well-
of thousands of dollars on heroin before they die too. So I
You know
think
how many times I see old people
Good.
at their homes sitting at a Windows XP computer playing poker all day or solitaire.
Yeah.
solitaire.
hmm
Or freaking bridge. I mean, for Christ's sake, How about anyways, we could go on and on. I mean, every hobby is its own right. But I would say that our hobby, that computer games and computer gaming, has given us SpaceX. How about that, huh? All the
How do you
programmers-
think that fucking worked out?
What's that?
They're all Kerbal players.
No. They're. I mean, but they're all a lot of the people who are working on the programs that manage the landing. They're definitely all there. Elon Musk made a point to hire game programmers because he said they understand physics better than any other programmer out there because they're trying to put that stuff into their games constantly. So these guys are already up on top of their physics programming. Now they have just to apply it to the real world. And he said, "Hey, here you go. Let's do it."
Anyway, it took them a couple tries, but they finally did it. Now we're seeing, they're seeing rockets land simultaneously. That's freaking
That was
amazing.
pretty crazy, wasn't it?
Oh my god!
And
I
watched that.
all 3 boosters.
I saw that shit coming down, and I'm like, wow, that's moving really fucking fast. That can't be good. And they were coming down fast, and I'm like,
Yeah, they have to.
Shit.
They don't have a lot of fuel, so they just have to,
and they burn at the last second. I'm like, what the fuck?
It's called a suicide burn.
Yeah, if a person was in it, they'd be dead.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean they actually don't. They have those. What do they? They measure the G's of those, and they don't have enough G's in any of those maneuvers to kill a person or even to knock them out. Yeah, no, they're actually pretty good. I mean, I think the most they get to is like five G's or something like that. It's not enough to kill a person, so it would be something. And the reason why is because the only reason they call it a suicide burn is just because they kind of wait to the last minute, technically speaking.
And if it doesn't work, it explodes into the ground. Yeah,
right.
We've seen a lot of that from Space Echo years.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is that if you don't try, if you don't continue, and it's like if you try it once and it fails, and you're like, oh, that's it, it's not going to work, then you fail. Basically,
SpaceX is a perfect metaphor for Star Citizen.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is that they're the same group of nerds just working on 2 different areas of the same type of technology. It's what you can imagine is what can be done. Everybody in this in the old space industry, everybody in the old guard were saying, yeah, they can't do it. It can't be done. And they were laughing at them. And it got to the point. I don't know if you've ever seen the interview with Elon Musk, was crying. It was, he was so injured by his heroes all saying that it was all complete BS. It couldn't be done. It was a waste of time and money. And it was just like there were
because that was on like 60 Minutes or some shit like that.
Yeah, there were a lot of people out there in the industry, working for Lockheed, working for Boeing, working for all these other industries, saying, "Nah, can't be done. If it could have been done, we would have done it."
That's my pony is absolutely right. All
beer.
The good AI programs, fucking Tesla. That's why Star Citizen can't have good AI.
Yeah, that's right. Because Tesla or Nvidia or a lot of them are taking them.
Oh, Ford and GM and everybody else that's trying to build autonomous vehicles. Yep. So they're high demand job.
The reason we can't have good programmers yet for AI is that you need an understanding in a lot of different areas, including tactics and human interaction, human understanding, and how people interact with objects, how they move, basic behavioral psychology, not on a psychologist level, but still fairly high. So you're looking for a person that is already can do multiple things. He has multiple disciplines, and he's a programmer. So they're hard to come by. They're not easy to come by. They're not your average mill of programmers.
The most difficult part of AI, especially, is dealing with environments where there isn't it's not like you're programming AI that's going to be in the exact same environment every single time. The pathing is going to be, randomized. They're not going to follow the exact same path every single time. That's what they're going for. And they are going to be every interaction with a player is going to be different. And so they need to, no player is going to come in the exact same location at the exact same time. So they're going to have to react in different ways, right? It's AI programming, the decision trees that they have to program in, and the loops that AI can get into. You have to think, okay, how do you make sure that your AI doesn't get stuck in a loop? And these are things that are AI programming is so complex in that sense. Because it's not just simple, door A or door B.
So they don't have Star Citizen is not going to be operating with the old system of attaching movement nodes on the map. It's going to be object based. So the AI itself is going to notice where there's an object and then avoid the object.
or path over it. If it can step, if it can step over, if it can climb up a mound or a hill, it will. If it can go and hide behind a rock because it can, it will. So these are all those kinds of things that it's going to be but getting AI to do that and do it well. And I think the biggest issue right now is that the AI has to be controlled by the server. And that's where they're having the biggest issue.
Well, I don't think that you're seeing their AI code perform to its maximum ability because of that limitation right now.
Yeah.
Their internal testing probably shows them something completely different than we see on the front end.
Well, the Kythera is a placeholder. Subsumption is the final solution, but they still have to, and they may have some sort of subsumption being the overall umbrella that then controls the Kythera. I don't know. They haven't really talked much about how subsumption and or Kythera will work together, if at all.
Well, subsumption is just a series of programs that tell the AI its task, but that doesn't include, I don't believe, movement.
No, it doesn't.
That's a totally different section of how AI is.
So the movement is Kythera, and then the overall decision making is subsumption.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's the way I understand it. Anyway, I could be wrong, but I think I got that right.
I'd like it if they would go in and kind of explain it to us and talk to us about that. It would. I
told them just put a camera in Tony's office.
Well, Tony Z, when he goes and starts talking about the AI, that's extraordinarily informative. But I'd like them to start. I'd like for Tony Z and Chris Roberts and like the top 5 guys to sit down. We got Sean Tracy. I know Tony Z, Chris Roberts. Who's Todd
Happy.
Right. So, and then Brian, right. So I'll get those guys in a room together and say, all right, where are we right now with AI and what do we need to do? I mean, that's what I think they like, because Chris Roberts said that was their next hurdle. The first one was object container streaming and bind culling, which came in and really improved gameplay. Right. Now the next thing is AI. That was what Chris Roberts said. Now his worry is AI. Now I know that, like you said, that doesn't mean are we going to have it or not? Is it a full on bust or a full on success? I think that it is. Is it going to reach the level of what Chris Roberts wants? However, I'd like to hear it in a kind of a roundtable discussion from those guys about the state of AI, where it is now and where they are trying to get to.
Oh, sure. You're not the only one. But unfortunately, a couple things have transpired, like the cutting of almost all subscriber content.
Yeah, that's a little weird, that
it's the blackout before Squadron 42.
You think that's what's going on?
They got nothing to talk about because the majority of development that takes place today doesn't take place.
Oh, that's true.
For us to see. It is
right. There's
all behind closed doors now.
Yeah. It is basically, there is a lot of blackout because of the vast majority of people in CIG are working on Squadron.
I believe that to be the case.
I do too.
Which sucks because...
And yet it doesn't suck at the same time. I mean, It sucks because we really want information. Right? We're hungry for information, but it doesn't suck because what it means is that they are on the final stretch, right? Where they're like going, okay, we see the goal. We see the goal line. We're headed there. We're on that last leg of the race. And man,
we're medio April.
The thing is that I'm glad. I'm anxious about it, but I'm also glad they're not revealing, because I've told people on my stream before, I don't want to know everything about Squadron. I don't want it to be by the time Squadron comes out, I know every freaking part of the storyline. I know, you know what I mean? I know every location. I mean, I want it to be a surprise. That's why I probably won't partake in the Evocati for Squadron if they open it up to a bunch of us, because I don't want I want to be as surprised as as my when I'm streaming it
for Quantum 42.
Yeah, because we can't like fucking SC leaks, Reddit, and all this other
Is
bullshit.
that ever going to happen? I don't know. No.
Well, they've said that there is going to be some Evocati who will be testing. I don't know if that's going to happen actually, but
some maybe caught.
No, they're not going to open it to the entire Evocati. I know that for a fact. There's just too many leaks from Evocati. So,
but do you think there's going to be? So we're medio April, 2019. Technically, we could be less than a year away from Squadron 42.
Beta, sure.
Yeah,
no,
I hold to my prediction that the fourth quarter 2020 will be when Squadron is released. So,
what'd you say? 2024?
No, 2020.
Oh,
when do we get fourth quarter?
I hope not.
When do we get to play it? When it's released or at an earlier stage?
No. Fourth quarter starts in October, right? So I think that they will have basically there will be from probably the May of next year, they will really start putting out the adverts. The marketing will go just heavy handed. I think you'll see something really huge at Gamescom for Squadron. And then I think it'll be released. I honestly think that they'll do a full-on release at CitizenCon.
It's a good possibility that they hold it for CitizenCon to make it a big fucking deal.
Yeah. No, I think that they will they're not holding it for that. I mean, first of all, Alpha, I still believe that Alpha will start in January, this next January. And I think that Alpha for Squadron will go probably until for the first half of the year. And then at the end of June, they will go into beta. And they won't need to have a full 6 months in beta. I mean, Alpha will work out most of the kinks and stuff, and then beta will just go in and fine tune it. And so you'll have.
You think they're going to do like all these other game companies?
What's that?
You think they're going to do like all these other damn game companies and do open beta shit?
No.
Or will it close?
No.
I think
that's what Star Citizen is. That's what Star Citizen is. They're testing a whole bunch of crap on us in terms of the mechanics. That's what they did with object container streaming. They built object container streaming, put it in, tested it out. We have banged the crap out of that and broken it and twisted it in all kinds of ways, and that makes it better for Squadron. There's going to be a lot of stuff that they put into the verse that we get to push and break and push, and that's going to make it better for Squadron. But no, I don't believe that they will put it into an open beta. I just don't think they would do that. I think they want to have a big ta-da, big fanfare, big open for, now it's open for everybody. They want to have, if they did anything, they would have a small closed beta. And basically, if they want to prevent any kind of leaks, any kind of reports that you did would have to go into a private folder where nobody but the developers could see it, right? Then if any leak did happen, have you guys seen the codes at the bottom of the screen in 3.5? Mm-hmm. Yeah. If anything did happen, they'd say, yeah, we know you leaked it because nobody can see this stuff except for the developers that you send their bug reports to and you. So you leaked it, you're done, right? And it's simple enough to do that way, right? So
yeah, but the damage is done for Squadron 42 at that point. They cannot.
Well, I mean, it depends on if
Squadron 42.
They're not going to, if they do beta testing, they're not going to give you just here's all Squadron 42. Okay, there you go. They'll probably just give each person a chapter, maybe.
Or even mission based.
Or just a mission. Yeah. So I think the full Squadron will only be tested by their internal testers.
And you'll know when it's getting there. Because if you follow Cloud Imperium game jobs, you'll see a bunch of QA jobs open up.
Yeah. I think you'll start to see more QA jobs starting
towards the end of this year.
Yeah, December probably.
Yeah, I think so. And they could easily hire. There's a bunch of people that fucking would love to test the game at that level and get paid for it. So, no.
So.
Dude, Dirk's on a roll.
So let's go.
Did we
Right, we're gonna
trigger
wrap up
you,
this
Derek?
thing.
He's agitated because the subscriber content has dried up. I am as well.
Isn't
But
everyone?
Oh, I am
Right?
too. And I there's so many things they could do, right? There's so many things that they could do to make the to make the content be that much more. It'd be nice if they were to say, like maybe there are some people out there in the backer only side of things talking about this, and it would be nice if they could maybe engage a few of those people who put together some pretty good stuff. I won't name any names, but there are people out there who put some pretty good stuff together. Just start making stuff where we can do some deep dives into different areas of the, we do love the whole theory crafting side of things. But they just don't do enough of that where they're sitting down and we know, okay, we don't want to sit there and monopolize these developers' time when we want them to be working on the game, right? But it certainly would be nice to go around and get a whole bunch of information that would be about Star Citizen and not necessarily about Squadron, and start talking about, their vision in the future is they want to go this direction. They don't know, and do a lot of theory crafting.
that's why the Sunday Star Citizen base roundtable is the perfect opportunity for CIG employees to come on and talk about shit.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would be nice if they would. I think the slowdown in content does annoy. It does kind of get to me, especially like this. I was understanding about the slowdown, but when they did this 3-week hiatus to ATV, that ticked me off. That was like, what? Wait a minute. How is it that you can't get hire dedicated people to do stuff for the community? We don't need you to go and harass the developers and pull them out of their, much needed duties. Hire new people. The last time we saw, at least from the releases, $3 million from subscribers. That's a lot of money for a year.
That's a lot of cocaine.
That is a lot of money for a year. So where the hell is that going? Right? Anyways,
CitizenCon.
No, they said that, anyways, well, I mean,
I don't know.
Maybe they're saving it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're saving it up for CitizenCon this year. Who knows? But I want to see more content out there on a weekly basis that is, video produced content. They have the video. They have the people out there to help do that editing. So I mean, come on.
You know what? All this complaining about what they do with the money makes me feel like a liberal. Complaining.
Oh, you hush.
It's more of a conservative mindset to say, you taxed me and where are you spending my money?
Yeah.
Okay. But I get what you're saying. So, but there's a bunch of people. It's a hot topic. Chat's going nuts about it right now. But the subscribers feel like they got gypped a little bit. And if it would have been,
I thought it was good last year.
If it would have been 3.5 dropped in a timely fashion, because it's still not out and we're in the third week of April. Am I correct? Yeah. We are coming into the third week of April. So maybe this week it'll drop. Does that mean they forego ATV content for 3 weeks after the release or from the scheduled release? Or see, we don't know these things.
Yeah.
But if 3.5 would have came out and they would have stuck to the thing and said, okay, no ATV for 3 weeks, at least 3.5 is out and people would be like, okay, but 3.5 is not out and there's no video content on top of it. And they already cut back the video content from when Jared came back from vacation. So it's just kind of compounding. So the trend isn't desirable. At the end of last year, we had a whole bunch of shows on. The start of this year, we had one show going on.
Right.
Where's the incentive to subscribe? Brown armor?
Poop armor.
I didn't subscribe for brown armor, dude. I didn't subscribe for the relic collection or the ship models. I subscribed because I wanted to hear what they had to say.
Right.
A lot of people subscribe because they wanted to hear what they had to say. And hearing anything, that's kind of a problem. I mean, when you smell shit, you got to call shit. And I smell shit. It's shitty. See? So, I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do, and we're not going to change it here, on the Star Citizen Base Roundtable. But they know.
Don't say that. We've changed things before. So
they know. They're aware.
It's still there. But I don't think that. I think it's overreaction. I think that you're allowed to feel whatever you feel against or for what's happening, but it's still happening. I think the reason what's happening is valid. I think that they planned their vacation accordingly, the staff accordingly to, like Jared took the vacation earlier, right? Stuff like this. It's planned in advance, they so that the game isn't finished, that this 3.5 isn't out. Technically, it's out because everybody can play a broken ass version of it, right? If they want to. So that way they can still say it's kind of here, right? But it's not completely done yet. And I agree that they should take the time, get it right, and then put it out of PTU.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the vast majority of us agree with that sentiment.
Don't put a completely broken pile of shit on the live servers and just kill it for everybody.
Actually, I told my viewers, look on the bright side. It's open to all backers, and they have a whole crap ton of ships you can try out that you don't own. So there is a silver lining to the fact that you can now go into the PTU. You can fly in a Hammerhead. You don't own it. It's an expensive ship. It isn't even available for purchase. You can fly in a Vanguard Warden. You can fly in all these other ships. If you only purchase the Mustang, you've got a whole crap ton of ships now you can fly to test to say, oh, I like this one, or oh yeah, no, I don't want to go down that road. So it does offer an opportunity for people who don't own anything except for the base game package to go try out a bunch of ships, and for a fairly decent amount of time.
And clothes. And you get a lot of money to try and buy clothes as well, and armor.
So there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, they give you 5 million credits to start with in there. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's good about the PTU going longer to give people that opportunity to try things out. And I think that's kind of their we know we're taking longer than we expected. We're sorry about that. Here, you guys can all try this out, right? I don't see a problem with that. What I do see a problem with, though, is the fact that if they you say that these things, and I agree, many of these absences, many of these times and these breaks are planned, right? However, they should be hiring, dedicated, I don't expect Jared to do everything. One person can't. There's just so much stuff that needs to be done. Jared can't do it all himself. I think there need to be people that work in, creating content on a weekly basis, and they need to have maybe even dedicated anchors.
I think a part of this delay is you're alluding to it kind of like a little bit, but I think that a lot of this content, it's not a shortage. It is what it is. It's because Jared's kind of fucking burnt out.
Yeah.
And he's, for as much shit as that guy gets, he's a big ass part of the community. A really ridiculously big part of the community. And that's a lot of fucking work. I mean, he's
a loyal trooper.
He is a loyal trooper, man. So you got to give that guy credit. And if he needs a fucking break, if that's what this is, maybe he can't handle all the shit that's on his plate. And you're right, Uber, that he needs help. They need to hire some people to help him.
Yes. Yeah.
And
what does he do except sit in front of webcam for one? There's so much preparation that has to go in to what they put into all the shows they've been doing. And the pace that they did last year
was crazy.
With him and just a couple other guys was huge.
Yeah.
It was a huge pace. I mean, they did the calling all devs, and they did, so they did the calling all devs, ATV, and reverse the verse. And these things that takes time and scheduling, and
there's a lot of stuff that has to be written down. There's a lot of reading and a lot of stuff that they have to look into. There's a lot of understanding of all these different areas to be able to ask the right questions and say, and not
They have
say
to
the
make
wrong
sure that
thing,
they get the right questions to get good answers that Chris says, okay, I'll let you talk about that. Or
So
their legal department or whoever.
Right. It's not a what he did last year was a pretty heavy duty pace. But again, that's why I'm saying there are a lot of subscribers, and there's a lot of production that happens behind the scene. There's a lot of production that happens behind the scene that even a well put together stream doesn't have to deal with. So
Bob, that's the funniest thing I've read in a while. He wants to fire the president to get rid of the red tape. That's not how shit works, dude. You know that.
But I think that we're gonna see a shift in when we reach week 3 to 4 change in April. And
yeah, I just want to see them hire more people that will help to take some of the load off and continue a
But do you think
pace.
that will happen at this stage or later, closer to CitizenCon?
It should happen at this stage, because if it happens too close to CitizenCon, it's going to be a cluster. You know what?
Yeah, but
realistically, they would need to have time to acclimate. Yeah, well, I mean,
historically, when have they hired people? Just before
and throw them in the fire, man.
CitizenCon or Gamescom, that's when they hire people to
that's
help
when
out.
Cameron Wilkie came on and had to put that shit on. Remember that?
See, the thing is that I'm one of those people that has been a project manager in a lot of different jobs for a long time, and you always think anywhere from a year to 2 years in advance, and think, well, what do we need to be doing a year from now? And we got to get people hired, because the hiring process takes time, and then you got to get that acclimation process. They got to learn all this stuff that they got to do. You got to practice and see who's good, who's not, because the first people you hire and get in on the job are not always going to be the ones that work out. It didn't work out. Sorry. Now you got to hire somebody else, right? So prepare for that kind of crap.
Well, with that being said,
none of these people who are in charge, like, I think the people like Todd Pappy and Brian Chambers and Tony Z, these guys are project managers. I don't know that Jared Huckabee has been a full-on project manager before.
No, I don't think so.
Because he doesn't, but he's in charge of this area. I don't think that there are people that are in this area of trying to do the community stuff that they're not doing this in a proper project management sense. They're not looking ahead and saying, we know that there's going to be attrition, and we know people are going to drop out. We know that. So prepare, try to hire the right people. If they're not the right ones, you won't know that, because all resumes are a lie, right? So you won't know that until you get through working with them, for a couple weeks or couple months. And you're like, you know what? You kind of exaggerated on that part of your resume. So you're gone.
It's funny that you say it like that, because I was just thinking, could it be that the 3 weeks that they plan to have the ATV hiatus is actually give Jared time to build out the quarter? So that everything isn't fucking last minute, because my understanding was it was pretty fucking week to week, so if he has 3 weeks to sit down and coordinate the rest of his, 9 weeks for that quarter, then that's a pretty good planning phase for someone that's creating video content, I would think. So maybe I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe.
Well, wasn't they look, they were talking about the game development. They don't want to put the developer on in the early phase after a switch to a new build, because they're still planning. They have nothing. They're planning how to do stuff, how long it's going to take, what they're going to prioritize. They don't have time. 2, or B, they don't know what they're going to talk about yet for the upcoming patch or the upcoming build. So they are kind of alluding to Jared as well here.
I think maybe. We don't know, because we're not sitting in the freaking meetings.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that if you have enough people behind the scenes filming this, filming that, talking here, talking there, not taking too much time out of the developer's time, but getting a whole bunch of stuff that you can distill down to 10, 15 minutes, then you're going to be better off than, saying, and we hope this works, and then just going down a single path. If you have 10 paths that you can, if you have an hour's or 2 hours worth of stuff over the period of a week that you've been able to cobble together, but you only use 15 minutes worth, then you have stuff kind of on the back burner that, that's what a team can do versus what one person has to, the exactness with which Jared must plan out his weeks and interviews. And if anything falls through, well, crap, now what do? You have to quickly try to insert something else in there so you don't have just 3 minutes of, a show, right? So, the point is that they need, like the early show, and a lot of people start talking about, Wingman's Hangar and all this other stuff. None of that stuff was really planned out. It was more of off the cuff, and it was early in the development process. So there was just a lot of, and it was fun. It was fun. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of fun. So, but the point is that we're at this point now where they do need to hire some people that can go around and start getting this B-roll that can be used.
No,
You need to tell your wife she looks beautiful.
We're innocent here. He's forcing us. He's holding us hostage.
T only said you look beautiful. They can fucking see you. Yeah, they can see your little eyeball poke right there. You want to eat?
She's been hiding.
All right.
Remember, she's been hiding really well for several years. She just blew it.
She blew it. All right, that's it. We're done. My wife just called it. Time to go.
That's good. What? So let me wrap this up with a simple question. Then, what are you doing tomorrow, Uber Nerd? What are you streaming?
Oh, I'm streaming. I'm going to be streaming. The Ori and the Blind Forest, and no, not really. I'm going to be streaming Star Citizen, and I'm going to be streaming that tonight sometime too. So,
all right.
Probably starting at about 7:00 tonight PST, 7 p.m. PST. Do a 4-hour stream or so, and then tomorrow morning I'll be streaming Star Citizen, 9 a.m. PST.
And where do they find you?
BDG
at twitch.tv/Uber_nerd.
And follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Nerdistic Stream. Yeah. Because it's not Uber Nerd, because some bastard already took that shit.
I know, and is not using it.
The same thing happened with wasn't it the Base Radio at the Base Radio was used? And it took us a while to get that. Yeah, it took us a while to get that. We were using it was, and we appealed it, and Twitter said okay.
Something like that.
So you could always.
I'm also at YouTube, youtube.com/ubernerd, all one word, no underscore.
Nothing like keeping it fucking simple.
I know, right? Well, I was supposed to have Uber Nerd on Twitch, but that one's taken as well. And they don't use that account either. So
it's a hassle. Oh, whatever. We'll see you around then. And then we'll be back with another episode next Sunday. I will put this one on YouTube.
No, I won't be.
That people have been. No, actually, yeah. Isn't that Easter?
It's Easter,
right? Probably
it's family time.
Be the same problem in other places. So it's no.
I don't worship no rabbit, so no Easter for me.
I think we're going to have an Easter break.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But
so that's official.
Okay, well, that's good. That's official.
All these viewers
in 2
need
weeks.
a break from.
They need a break from us too. Yeah. So I'll put this one episode up on YouTube. I know Zeus appreciates that as well as some other people. We had a very lengthy comment on our last episode. Someone went way in depth there, but that's good. That's good. That's cool. That's cool. Okay.
Somebody's writing the Library of Congress on a single post.
4 paragraphs, but okay.
He broke down the entire podcast in like 4 paragraphs. It was great. At least the shit he found interesting, so it was good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. So
Thanks for coming, Bernard.
Yeah, not a problem. I always enjoy it.
Oh, that's
Good to have somebody to discuss with.
Oh yeah.
I always try to be as contentious as possible and trigger as many people as I can.
Well, you failed to succeed today, sir.
God
You
dang
need
it.
to do better.
We need more overeating. That's what we need.
Get some more harsh.
Or overheating, yeah.
See ya, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Shazbot.
Until in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
I support the monkeys. Do you? Check out The Base, 24/7 online radio. Oh, yeah! Visit us at TheBase.sc. They're professionals.